Chapter 1858. A group of guards abandoned them just like they were abandoning ants. Although Tianyan would have an extremely high status after he became an expert and could decide life and death with a word, it was really disappointing that he didn't even protect them now. Not to mention the Thunder Shadow Temple Master, even the other temple masters and elders felt the same way. Or it could be said that this was the culture of the Celestial Pole ancestral land. The power of the strongest was the greatest, and they could punish anything. Thunder Shadow Temple Master, this are we going to use it too? The guards were about to cry. They weren't natives from the lower domain. They didn't have slave marks. The advantages of being natives were not small, but now they were being pushed to the edge of a fire pit. Yes, you better do as I say now. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master glared, and a sharp murderous aura surged towards the guards, indicating for them to quickly kneel down and obey the order. If you don't do as I say, I will exterminate your entire family. Sacrificing one person to save everyone else was the most cost-effective way to go about it. The guards' faces turned pale. If that was the case, was this the only way? Then they all knelt down and obeyed the Thunder Shadow Temple Master's order. Is this okay? They can be dealt with at any time. Whether you do it yourself or I do it, there won't be any problem. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master continued to rub his hands and smile. He wasn't angry at all. In reality, he was filled with resentment and anger towards Tianyan. However, he wanted Tianyan to become good friends with him. This loss was worth it. Everything was for his own benefit. Everything else could be abandoned. Tianyan looked at the group of guards in front of him and shook his head. He had to say that it was a tragedy to be born in such a force. Everything had to be used as cannon fodder when something happened. Not enough. Tianyan looked at the Thunder Shadow Temple Master and smiled. Not enough. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master's heart was filled with anger. He had even abandoned so many of his subordinates. What else was there to be dissatisfied with? However, he still suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a suppressed voice, "Is there anything else you need? I will personally handle it for you." The Thunder Shadow Temple Master was very angry, but he could only smile and welcome it. He really wanted to kill Tianyan, but killing him would be a huge loss. If he could establish a good relationship with Tianyan, when Tianyan became a powerful elder, or even a Star Lord here, he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. It's very simple. Kill yourself. That's my final request. Tianyan looked at him and said calmly. What? The Thunder Shadow Temple Master suspected that he had heard wrongly. He gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Did you say something wrong? You want me to commit suicide?" "That's right. You can't possibly think that I'll let you go so easily, right? You chased me for so long. If it wasn't for my talent, would you treat me like this?" Tianyan said coldly. "From the beginning, I wouldn't let you go. As long as you commit suicide, I won't kill your entire clan." Brother Tianyan. Gongyang was dumbfounded. He didn't expect things to turn out this way. However, he was anxious and it was too late to persuade him. If Tianyan said this, there would be a huge consequence. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master would be furious. Ha ha. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master looked up to the sky and laughed. A bolt of divine lightning erupted from behind him, and a huge phantom of a thunder dragon circled behind him. His star Dharma form was the Thunder Dragon Star. Under his eruption, the Thunder Dragon Star in the void flickered slightly and released power to connect with the Thunder Shadow Temple Master. Crackle, crackle. Lightning flashed in all directions. Under the lightning, the hard ground was left with a few charred marks. A slight touch and one would be electrocuted into charcoal. Seems like you really think of yourself as a big shot. After the Thunder Shadow Temple Master laughed, he looked at Tianyan with a crazy gaze and sneered. "I admit that your future is limitless. You can become a big shot even in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. But that's in the future, not now. Originally, I could satisfy any request of yours, but now you want to kill me. Seems like a native is a native. His thinking is so naive. Killing a being with a unique star Dharma form is really exciting." The Thunder Shadow Temple Master stretched out his hand, and a Thunder Shadow whip appeared in his palm. It complemented the power of his Thunder Dragon Star and increased its power to the maximum. You think you can kill me with your level 3 Star Dharma form? Etianyan sneered. I say you're a native. Even if you have a high-level Star Dharma form, you're still a native. Do you really think you can kill me with this Star Dharma form? The difference in cultivation can't be bridged with just this Star Dharma form. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master clicked his tongue and said, It's a pity that such a good Star Dharma form is used by a native. What a waste. But if I can kill you, I'll have something to brag about in the future. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master did not hesitate. He immediately picked up the Thunder Shadow Whip and whipped it towards Etianyan. Thunder Dragon Star's power was infused into the Thunder Shadow Whip, and a huge Thunder Dragon appeared. It whizzed towards Etianyan. The crackling and dense lightning blocked all of Etianyan's escape routes, leaving him with no way to escape. Gong Yang's face turned pale. At the same time, he sighed deeply. Everything was over. Originally, if Etianyan had befriended the Thunder Shadow Temple Master obediently, he might have been able to survive and find the right time to take revenge in the future. In the end, he was still too impulsive. If he had tolerated it. But to Etianyan, there was no such thing as toleration. Looks like you still don't know the difference in the power of the Star Dharma form. Etianyan shook his head and said, You're still a temple master. I thought you'd be more knowledgeable and know the unique power of the Star Dharma form. Unfortunately, your knowledge is still too limited. Perhaps it's because you've been trapped here that you've become so insignificant. My knowledge is insignificant? Then you can go to hell obediently. Think about it carefully. Whose knowledge is insignificant, ignorant lowly native? The Thunder Shadow Temple Master did not stop attacking, and continued to swing his whip forward. Etianyan took a step forward and released the aura behind him. The 5-colored Emperor Dragon's Star Dharma form exploded. Roar. A roar that sounded like it came from the 9 heavens was heard. The terrifying 5-colored Emperor Dragon's shadow appeared behind Etianyan. A terrifying and unparalleled power instantly enveloped the entire area. Lei Minglong, who had pounced forward, shrunk back behind the Thunder Shadow Temple Master like a puppy. The originally vast power of thunder and lightning suddenly became insignificant. Its power was also greatly reduced. This was the suppression of a level. To be precise, it was the suppression of the same race. Lei Minglong still had the bloodline of a dragon. The 5-colored Emperor Dragon had the body of a real dragon, and possessed the supreme bloodline of a real dragon. Chapter 1859. Lei Minglong shrank, causing Leiying Temple Master's power to shrink by a large margin. Without the strengthening of the Star Law, he was like a bird without wings. His power could not do much at all. How can this be? Leiying Temple Master, who had rushed over, felt his power suddenly disappear. There was a sense of emptiness, but more than that he felt powerless. Lie down. Etianyan charged over and kicked Leiying Temple Master. The majesty of the 5-colored Emperor Dragon descended from the sky. Instantly, Leiying Temple Master could not breathe. An irresistible feeling welled up in his heart. Thinking back to the powerlessness he felt in the past, it was only when he was facing someone above the level of Master Xing. But Etianyan, who was only at the intermediate Star Apostle level, made him feel the gap between him and Master Xing. Leiying Temple Master did not give up struggling. He picked up the Thunder Shadow Whip and lashed out to block Etianyan's kick. But suppression was suppression. Etianyan's kick was even faster. Like a divine dragon swinging its tail, it came down from the void and slashed down from a long distance away. Dong. Leiying Temple Master was crushed to the ground. His head and body were crushed and turned into a cloud of blood mist. His soul didn't even manage to escape, and he was crushed by this kick. Killing a temple master with one kick. How terrifying. Etianyan landed on the ground and stood steadily, not the slightest bit exhausted. This is the difference between the Star Law. It's a pity that you will never know. Etianyan's expression was indifferent. Combined with crazy mode in the Star Law, his power was increased by 50 times. The suppression effect of the 5-colored Emperor Dragon and the explosive effects stacked together, creating an absolute crushing power. Especially the Thunder Shadow Temple Master. Without Lei Minglong's support, he was much weaker. This was the key to Yi Tianyun's victory. He did not need to use too much power to crush Laying Temple Master. Many guards were shocked and dumbfounded. Gong Yang was the same. He stared blankly at the scene, not knowing what was going on. Previously, he had thought that Yi Tianyun would not be able to fight against the Laying Temple Master. But now he was instantly killed with a single kick. His soul did not even have the chance to escape before he was kicked to death. He recalled how he had tried to persuade Yi Tianyun to run away. That was such a joke. Successfully killed the Thunder Shadow Temple Master. Obtained 12,000 star energy points. Obtained Thunder Shadow Whip, low-grade star sector level treasure. And Thunder Dragon Star level 3. A large amount of star energy surged into his body, enough for him to become a Star Master. Coupled with the 12-fold EXP, leveling up was not difficult at all. In fact, it was relatively easy. The main thing was that he didn't need to level up anything at the moment. If he had other godly skills to level up, it would really be a bottomless pit. After all the values were calculated using only star energy, which would undoubtedly consume even more star energy. However, this simplification was not bad. The Thunder Dragon Star even has such a thing? Yi Tianyun looked at the Thunder Dragon Star in his inventory. If he used it, would he gain the power of another star aspect? But its grade was still too low, so even if he wanted it, it would not be of much use. He then turned his gaze to the other guards. The group of guards trembled, and most of them pointed their weapons at Yi Tianyun as they trembled and said, "Even if we die, we won't let you kill us as you please." They were not willing to lower their heads. Since they were going to die anyway, they would rather fight to the death. Yi Tianyun did not waste time with them. He held the Thunder Shadow Whip in his hand and rushed towards them, sweeping everything in his path. Wherever the whip landed, the guards were all whipped into meat patties. His attacks were extremely ruthless, and he did not hold back at all. They fled in all directions, and did not even have the strength to resist. Were they supposed to just stand there and be beaten like idiots? However, their speed was not as fast as Yi Tianyun's. He caught up to them in an instant and then surrounded them. However, some guards were surprised to find that they were not attacked. There were several times when Yi Tianyun passed by them, but he did not attack them, as if he was deliberately letting them go. "Don't worry, I will only kill the people here, not the people from the lower world." Yi Tianyun's voice spread across the area, and the guards who worked here were stunned. After taking a closer look, it was true. Those who were not killed were all from the lower domain. It was very simple for Yi Tianyun not to kill them. They were originally from the same origin, so there was no need to kill them all. They were only here to earn some military merits. As for those who were too arrogant and forgot that they were from the lower realms, he also killed them. However, most of them put themselves in Yi Tianyun's shoes, and did not forget that they came from the lower domain. Therefore, they did not attack the Star Apostles from the lower domain, nor did they treat them badly. They were all very friendly. This was what Yi Tianyun had discovered when he was carefully observing the situation in the palace. After Yi Tianyun killed them all, there was still a group of guards from the lower domain left. Although these guards were not killed, they still trembled and said, "Thank you for not killing us, sir. Although we are fine, what should we do next?" The temple master was dead, and the guards were all dead. They were the only ones left alive, but if the higher-ups sent people down, wouldn't they be finished? The key was that they all had the slave mark, so they could not escape even if they wanted to. Or rather, they could only stay in the celestial pole ancestral land, and could not go anywhere else. Yi Tianyun looked at them and said calmly, "It's very simple. You will continue to work here, and you will do what you did in the past. The difference is that no one will care about you, and you will be able to enjoy the resources here. According to my observations these days, basically no one will come here, right? Usually, people will be sent over to pick people up, and after they leave, there will be nothing else. This is really..." They looked at each other, and the fear in their hearts was gradually suppressed. There was no one managing this Thunder Shadow Palace at all. The Thunder Shadow Temple Master was managing it, so naturally, he would not send people down to patrol or anything. There was no need for that at all. So, you can cultivate here peacefully and slowly earn military merits as usual. Yi Tianyun frowned and said, As for the slave mark, it can't be removed for the time being. The slave mark is naturally not easy to remove. It requires a lot of military merits to exchange for it. They were dejected. The slave mark was a huge knot in their hearts, and it locked their freedom. However, when Tianyan said that he couldn't remove it for the time being, it was because his level in this area was too low. If he were to level up, he might be able to remove it. No matter what, it was so satisfying just now. We've finally exterminated those fellows. How satisfying. That's right, it was too depressing. Those guys were arrogant, and they didn't care about our lives. No matter how hard we tried, we couldn't get any recognition. Good kill. From now on, this is our territory. Chapter 1860. They had been oppressed for too long. Even if they worked hard here, it would be useless. They looked down on them. From the moment they came up, they were looked down on. They didn't see them as companions at all, but as slaves. It could be seen from the slave mark. The local cultivators didn't have slave marks, but those from the lower worlds always had slave marks, unless they had enough military merits to remove them. Otherwise, even if they became star masters, they would still have slave marks if they didn't remove them. However, if they really became star masters, they would definitely have military merits. Unless they didn't want to get rid of them, it wouldn't be a problem. But no matter what, those who came up from the lower worlds would always feel inferior. Under such circumstances, the contradictions accumulated more and more, but they couldn't resist and could only bear it silently. This time, when Tianyan killed all the guards and palace masters, they felt very happy. Although they were worried, it was still a good result compared to getting rid of the pressure in their hearts. Then Tianyan started to set things up. He told them to do what they should do according to the original situation. Gongyang also awakened the star dharma. It wasn't a low level, it was a level 2 star dharma. Not everyone could be as nature-defying as Tianyan. It was already very impressive to be able to obtain a level 2 star dharma. In the following time, Tianyan didn't leave. He stayed in the Thunder Shadow Palace and looked through all kinds of information. The information here was relatively complete. It recorded the situation of the Celestial Pole ancestral lands and the other ancestral lands. The information about the other ancestral lands was more general, but the Celestial Pole ancestral lands was more detailed. He had to understand the situation of the Celestial Pole ancestral lands. Once they fought, he had to understand the other party's situation. During this time, Tianyan told the Star Apostles to stay here and cultivate. They had more freedom here and could awaken the Star Dharma at will. It didn't matter if they didn't awaken the Dharma well. At least they wouldn't be transferred to places like the mines. There was one thing he couldn't change, and that was the slave mark. If they wanted to come out, they had to go through the long corridor. Therefore, the slave mark would definitely be branded on them. Unless he was at a higher level in this aspect, there was no way he could break the formation here. However, right now he was accumulating his troops. He had them stay here for now, and when he could unlock them in the future, he would unlock them all at once and use them for himself. He was very ambitious. Since the Celestial Pole ancestral land wanted to enslave them, he would destroy it. Fellow Taoist Tianyan, bad news. Gongyang hurriedly rushed over and said, "The higher-ups have sent someone down, saying that they want to check it out." Tianyan closed his book and stood up. That's strange. Why are there people coming down to check? Do they have nothing better to do? He frowned, feeling that the newcomer did not come with good intentions. He had tried his best to arrange for some star apprentices to be sent to other regions that were relatively friendly with them, instead of not sending them out at all. If they didn't send it out, they would definitely think that something had happened. Although the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land looked down on those who came from the lower realms, they were the foundation of their basic combat power. For example, the miners and the military power were all taken care of by these cannon fodder. If there were too few of them, they would immediately send someone down to hold them accountable. In order to ensure that this place was well protected, Tianyan arranged for some star apprentices to be sent out. Those star apprentices all knew what was going on, but they were sent out in batches and turns, without any special treatment. Who knew that someone would still come down to check it out? and it was very likely that they felt that there were too few of them. What should we do? We don't have the Laying Temple Master here. Gong Yang said anxiously. If we are discovered, we will be doomed. Their cultivation levels were so low. Although Yi Tianyan's cultivation was not weak, they were not strong. If they were discovered, they would really be surrounded and killed. Calm down, leave it to me. Yi Tianyan stretched out his hand, and a long robe draped over his body, covering his face. I will be the Laying Temple Master. You guys just follow behind me. This. Gong Yang was stunned. How could he be impersonated? Yi Tianyan didn't explain, and walked out with his people. Just as they stepped out, a dissatisfied voice came from the front. Laying Temple Master, you are really arrogant. You actually didn't come out to welcome us. They didn't even greet him and just barged in. What came into sight were two Star Masters. Their cultivation levels were early-stage Star Masters, and their levels were similar to the Laying Temple Masters. No wonder they were so impudent. Laying Temple Master? The leader was a man with a flaming afro. He had red hair and a burly body. He looked like a fire god. When they saw that Yi Tianyan was wrapped in a black robe, they really didn't know what was going on. Cough, cough, cough. Recently there was a problem with my cultivation, and my whole body is burnt black. It's a little ugly, so I won't embarrass myself. As he spoke, Lei Minglong's power flashed in Yi Tianyan's body. It was the Laying Temple Master's power of thunder. Gong Yang, who was standing at the side, was stunned. He was nervous just now, afraid that he would be discovered. Now, Yi Tianyan could actually release the power of the Laying Temple Master. Such accurate Lei Minglong's power was quite familiar. If they didn't know beforehand that the person in front of them was Yi Tianyan in disguise, they would have really thought that the Laying Temple Master had resurrected. All of this was the effect of the Lei Minglong star. After releasing it, they realized that it could really release the power of the Lei Minglong star. There was no need to swallow it into the body. All they needed to do was to use it. They just needed to pour in a little star power, and they would be able to release it. Haha, I didn't think that you would have such a day. The two of them immediately believed him. Who else could fake such a familiar power? Moreover, they didn't think that the Laying Temple Master would be killed. May I know why the two of you are here? Yi Tianyan went straight to the point. This time we are here for a very simple reason. We sent out two little lowly trash from the lower worlds. Is there any problem with the palace you are managing? The one with the red afro was called Fire Lion. He had the level 3 Fire Lion star, so he simply and crudely named himself Fire Lion. As expected, they were here to inquire about this matter. It didn't exceed Yi Tianyan's expectations. That's right. If it weren't for the two of us, I'm afraid that your position would have been lost. The other one was called Wind Ape. He had the power of the Wind Ape star, and was also at level 3. Both of them were not weak. Although they weren't temple masters, their positions were not much different from the temple masters. Yi Tianyan squinted and sized up the two of them. If they really fought, it would take some effort. After all, the suppression of the 5-colored Emperor Dragon would not have much effect on them. Of course, he wasn't worried in this aspect. There was no suppression of the same race, but in terms of power he would absolutely crush them. This was because he had already broken through to the early stage of Star Master cultivation. If he used all his star energy, he would be able to increase it. Chapter 1861. But this time we'll help you cover it up for the time being. Next time, please be more careful. I know you're usually vicious and merciless. If you get angry, a group of people will suffer. Fire Lion said with a smile. But you still have to take it easy. Don't go too far, understand? That's right. If you don't reach the target, you won't be able to keep your position as Temple Master. We'll let it go this time, but don't do it again. This time, we'll say that you didn't have enough resources, which led to this situation. When the time comes, we can help you apply for the next batch of resources. Don't forget to give us some back. Wind Ape laughed sinisterly at the side. Sure enough, the three of them were in cahoots. They had a good relationship and had probably done this kind of thing many times. Most of the resources that were released were taken away. and only a small portion would be released to the various large worlds. Of course. Etianyan pretended to agree. He would drive the two of them away first, and settle down for a while. Alright, are there any good goods this time? The female disciples that came up last time were not bad. Their personalities were fierce, and their resistance was not small. I like them. Fire Lion licked his lips, his eyes full of intense light. Are there any left for yourself this time? I remember that you often left some for yourself to enjoy, and some were even sucked dry by you. Hey, you still have the nerve to talk about laying. Aren't you the same? Sometimes you just choke people to death. What a bummer. Wind Ape chuckled and said, I'm more gentle. I'll torture them slowly. The female disciples who came up from below have stronger personalities. They climbed up bit by bit, but in the end, they were tortured bit by us until they collapsed. Everything turned into nothing. It's really quite exciting. It's not just exciting. I like to see their desperate and unwilling expressions. Torture them to death bit by bit. Their stubborn gazes make me want to stop. One by one, they described their disgusting and perverted behavior, which made Etianyan silent. Gong Yang clenched his fists, and his nails dug into his palms, but he didn't notice. He could only lower his head and look at the ground, not daring to raise his head to look at Fire Lion and the others. If the anger in his eyes was seen, he would reveal something. It seems that you guys like to play like this usually? A cold voice sounded in their ears. Hey, what do you mean by usually? You sound like you don't usually play like this. Of the 10 female disciples, I reckon that not more than one will be able to escape from your grasp. Fire Lion didn't hear the cold tone in his voice. He slapped Etianyan's shoulder and said with a smile, You often use Lei Minglong's power of thunder and lightning to burn them bit by bit. How can you talk about us? Oh, then you can die first. Etianyan dragged it over, and with an extremely berserk strength, he punched the flame lion. With a boom, the flame lion was turned into a ball of flames, but it quickly condensed to the side. However, his face was pale, and he had lost a life. The Fire Lion Star's special ability was a bit like the phoenix's rebirth from the ashes. After dying once, he could be resurrected again. Who are you? You are definitely not the Thunder Shadow Palace Master. Fire Lion immediately sensed that the power that attacked him just now was not Lei Minglong's power, but some other power, which made his heart palpitate. Oh, you can even be resurrected. This ability is not weak. Etianyan looked at the reborn Fire Lion. It had some blood relations with the Phoenix clan, so it was not surprising that it could have the ability to be reborn from the ashes. The wind ape at the side also erupted with its strongest power. A huge wind ape appeared behind it. The wind ape was covered in green fur. It hammered its chest and let out a huge roar. Its mouth was like a hurricane as it charged over. In an instant, it enveloped Etianyan's area. Etianyan did not dodge and stood in place. After being blown by the hurricane, the black robe on his body was blown away, revealing Etianyan's true appearance. As expected, it's not the Thunder Shadow Palace Master. Their pupils constricted. The wind ape's attack just now was even more ineffective. For a moment, they became vigilant. They had not expected the Thunder Shadow Palace Master to be dead. Gong Yang was blown to the side by the wind. Because Etianyan had helped to block most of it, he was only blown away. He had not expected Etianyan to attack, but after thinking carefully, he immediately understood what had happened. He clapped his hands and said angrily, Seal off the entire area. The guards outside immediately sealed off the rest of the area. Even the entrance to the palace was quickly sealed, not allowing the two to escape. Good, I didn't expect all the guards here to be replaced. Fire Lion looked around and said coldly, I don't know where you came from, or which faction you came from, but you are not from our faction. Do you think these guards will obey your orders? Kill him for me. Fire Lion pointed at Etianyan. Gong Yang, who was beside him, actually attacked Etianyan, completely unable to control himself. Ah, fellow Taoist Tianyan, quickly dodge. I can't control myself. The imprint in his soul began to flicker, forcing him to give orders. This was the effect of the slave imprint. All the guards had the slave imprint, so they could not control themselves and rushed toward Etianyan. wanting to kill him. They were originally companions, but in the blink of an eye, they became enemies, wanting nothing more than to cut Tianyan into pieces. Ha ha ha. It seems that these guards all have the slave imprint. They are all lowly aboriginals from below. Although I don't know how they conspired with you, let's see how you deal with them. Fire Lion laughed loudly, preparing to watch a fierce battle between his own people. Shut your smelly mouth. The five-colored Emperor Dragon immediately appeared behind Tianyan, releasing a dazzling light in the air, causing Fire Lion and Wind Ape stars to dim. They were immediately suppressed by the difference in level, and their effects were greatly weakened. This power. They were stunned as they looked at the five-colored Emperor Dragon behind Tianyan. It's that mysterious expert with a unique star last time. It's actually you? They had naturally seen the huge commotion last time, but they had never expected that the mysterious expert with a unique star would actually appear in front of them. Boom. Tianyan's foot has already reached the Fire Lion, and the Fire Lion phantom behind it, directly trampling them to the ground, unable to move. This violent power did not need any embellishment, and it could crush everything. You gave the order, right? Then I'll send you to hell. Tianyan stomped on his head. Fire Lion's eyes widened, and he could not even say a word before he was crushed. This time, with his head crushed, there was no resurrection effect to speak of. He was completely dead. Chapter 1862. The Fire Lion was easily crushed. The Wind Ape didn't even have a chance to save it. It could only watch helplessly as its companion was killed. Let's go. The Wind Ape was terrified. The Fire Lion, which was almost as strong as him, had been killed in an instant. Especially when he felt that terrifying unique star aspect, his legs kept trembling. Therefore, it didn't care about revenge at all. It turned around and fled. Survival was the most important thing. Everything else had to stand aside. It was a joke to avenge its brother. If even the Fire Lion was killed in a second, it would be the same for it. Wind come. The Wind Ape let out a low roar, and the Wind Ape's starry star Dharma idol appeared behind it. A hurricane gushed out from its back, and its speed increased by several times in an instant. It turned into an extreme afterimage and disappeared. Oh no, we can't let him escape. Gong Yang's expression changed. He knew the situation was bad when he saw the Wind Ape escape. If they escaped, they would soon be discovered. At that time, they wouldn't even have time to escape. Swish. A pale green light spun in front of it, and blocked the Wind Ape at an even faster speed. You want to escape with this speed? Tianyan blocked the Wind Ape with an indifferent expression. The green dragon scales on the five-colored Emperor Dragon's body became even more dazzling. It seemed that the five-colored Emperor Dragon had activated the wind attribute. The five-colored Emperor Dragon had a total of 5 attributes. They were metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The power of each attribute was at the extreme level. Now that the wind attribute was activated, it could instantly burst out with astonishing speed. 10 times the speed. It wasn't like before. Now it could stack up to 10 times the speed. It was already extremely terrifying. The Wind Ape's speed was only 3 or 4 times. However, Tianyan could explode with 10 times the speed and crush the Wind Ape. Oh no! The Wind Ape's face turned pale. It turned around and wanted to escape. However, Tianyan's kick had already sent it flying into the solid palace. His sturdy physique was still caved in by this kick, and he became half dead. Cough, cough, cough. Your speed, how can it be so fast? The Wind Ape crawled up with great difficulty. He was most proud of his speed. Even if he couldn't win, he could still escape. He had lost count of how many times he had successfully escaped by relying on his speed. But now he had lost to Tianyan, and he had been caught up to so easily. That feeling of defeat made him lose the courage to run away. How could he resist when he had lost the ability to escape that he was so proud of? You can go down and ask your companions about this. At some point in time, Tianyan had already arrived in front of the Wind Ape. He directly stomped on the Wind Ape. He didn't use any fancy moves, he just stomped on the Wind Ape. To deal with them, there was no need to release more power. Just relying on the Star Dharma idol was enough to crush them. He did not even need to activate crazy mode. The 5-colored Emperor Dragon was enough to suppress him. This was the effect of a high-level star law. Successfully killed Wind Ape. Obtained 12,000 star energy points. Wind Ape Planet, Wind Ape Divine Boots. Just like when he killed the Thunder Shadow Temple Master, he obtained the corresponding star energy. It was the same for the Fire Lion. After killing it, he obtained star energy. Not only could he use it, but he could also gift it to others. However, gifting it to others was a bit shocking. Under normal circumstances, stars could not be given to others at will. Only under extreme circumstances could the power of the stars be transferred away. However, that would require an extremely high price to be paid in order to transfer it away. Unless it was a very high-level star law, no one would be willing to pay such a high price. Therefore, Etienne's star law would be targeted. As for whether or not it would be forcibly taken away, it was hard to say. The higher the level of the star law, the more difficult it would be to take it away. It could even be said that it could not be taken away, and there was a possibility of a backlash. Killed them all. Gong Yang and the others stared blankly at the corpses of the Fire Lion and the Wind Ape. They had all died in the blink of an eye, which also meant that this place was finished and could no longer be used as a place to live. If the two of them did not go back to report, it meant that there was something wrong with this place. They would definitely continue to send people to investigate. Isn't this a bit too impulsive? If we endure it. One of the guards shook his head. If they endured it, they could continue to stay here. This place was rich in resources and was very safe. They did not need to go to other places to do hard labor. This place was definitely the best place to stay. Etienne's eyes turned cold. He looked over and said in a low voice, "Endure it? Give up your Dao companion, and let them play with her? Of course, I know that you do not have a Dao companion with you now, but there is no lack of female disciples here. Perhaps they are not related to you, but what if they are your relatives and friends? I only know that there are some things that cannot be endured. Compared to enduring it, I want to be a person more." The reason why he was angry was not only because the two of them were beasts, but also because if one day Shi Shuiyan and the others came, wouldn't they also suffer the same situation? Therefore his anger exploded in an instant, without any hesitation. Etienne's words made those female disciples extremely grateful. If they were really given up, they would definitely resist to the death and defend their last bit of dignity. From the bottom up, which one of them did not have a fiery temper? That's right. If it weren't for the fact that I am not as strong as them, I would have beaten them up. God knows how many female disciples they have harmed. Gong Yang said with hatred. Cultivator Tianyan's action is to vent his anger. I agree with Cultivator Tianyan's action. In fact, it is almost time for us to leave. We just need to blend in with them. It is better than being randomly assigned without any choice. The guards who had such thoughts all shook their heads. Everyone had a different way of thinking, and it was normal for them to be selfish. Etienne shook his head. He felt that it was impossible for him to lead this group of people, or rather, he would not be able to do anything if he stayed with them. If anything happened to him one day, it would all be because of their betrayal. The fact that they had such thoughts meant that their thoughts were extremely terrifying, and it was easy for them to become fence-sitters. These kinds of people were not rare. After this incident, Etienne had seen many things. Originally, he had wanted to lead them to fight their way out of this place, or to form an alliance of star disciples from the lower world. Now it seemed that he had been too naive. Instead of relying on them, he might as well rely on the forces under him to rise. Chapter 1863. Those who walked different paths could not make plans together. Many of the star apostles who had been promoted were not as strong-willed. All they wanted was to survive. Or rather, they did not care about it. Since they did not have a cultivation partner, they would not be handed over. Therefore, they had nothing to do with the other female star apostles. Little did they know that this was the scariest thing. When it was their turn, they would be indifferent and numb to the idea of resistance. Only then would they know what despair was. Etienne had wanted to act alone for a long time. It was best for him to act alone. Now that the palace was no longer safe, it was time for him to leave. Brother Tianyan, are you leaving just like that? Gong Yang followed him in. Yes, do you have a better proposal? Tianyan said with a smile. He had a good impression of Gong Yang. As long as Gong Yang was not like the other star apostles who had completely lost their humanity. Well, I really don't. Gong Yang was a little embarrassed. He really did not have a good suggestion, but after thinking for a while he said, why don't we go to the army together? With Brother Tianyan's ability, it will be easy for you to make contributions and earn military merits. Gong Yang did not know that Tianyan did not have a slave mark, so he thought that Tianyan also had a slave mark. With a slave mark he would have to make contributions or he would not be able to get rid of the slave mark. Go to the army. Tianyan squinted. Yes, this is the only way we can go now. We have to lower our heads. If I could get rid of the slave mark, I would definitely leave this damned place and never come back. Gong Yang said with disgust. This place is too disgusting. There is no freedom at all. That is true, but I will not go. You guys go ahead. If we are fated, we will meet again. Tianyan thought for a while and rejected. All right then, Brother Tianyan, take care. Gong Yang cupped his fists and turned to leave. If he continued to stay here, he would definitely die. If he left this place quickly, he could pretend that he came from somewhere else and whitewash himself. Looking at Gong Yang's back, Tianyan's biggest thought now was to claim the Chaos Realm, his home, as his own. In the lower realm, he was a king, but here it was not something he could control. As long as the seal couldn't be broken, the primal Chaos Realm would belong to the Empyrean Pole Ancestral Land. The main thing was that the Empyrean Terminus Ancestral Land could send people down at any time. This way, they could control the primal Chaos Realm at will, unless he destroyed the passageway. However, if he wanted to destroy the passageway, it would be very difficult for him to do so with his current cultivation base. Perhaps because this was the foundation of the Empyrean Terminus Ancestral Land, the palace was very sturdy and basically unbreakable. If he wanted to break through it, he would have to increase his cultivation by a large margin, or become an Astral Rune Master. A Star Inscription Master was an enhanced version of a Divine Inscription Master from the lower realms. They were an even stronger existence. Most of the star rune arrays here were at the first level, and some were even at the second level. It was extremely difficult to destroy them. According to his speculation, he would need to be at least a late Star Inscription Master to be able to break them. It seemed that a Star Inscription Master was very powerful, but in fact the palace was a whole. There were many arrays accumulated, and the superimposed defense was very terrifying. If it was just one, a late Star Apostle could break it. However, he was now facing a hole. Therefore, it was difficult to break it, and the result was that he could not cut off the connection to the Chaos Realm. But if he cut off the connection to the Chaos Realm, how could he go back? The Chaos Realm was equivalent to a small world. If it was destroyed, the small world would collapse. At that time, all the lives inside would be finished. Therefore, it was naturally not advisable to destroy it. The best way was to dig out this small world. That was the best way. But to dig out the small world was equivalent to destroying the entire palace, which was not easy. This was the reason why he was reluctant to leave. If something happened, the Chaos Realm would be destroyed. When he told Gong Yang that he wanted to leave, he did not really mean to leave. Instead, he hovered nearby and paid close attention to the situation here. He was waiting for an opportunity, which was when the system upgrade was completed. Once the upgrade was completed, the Star Inscription Master level would increase rapidly, and when he reached a higher level, he would be able to break the palace. If he really wanted to make contributions in exchange for freedom and home, it would be like a fart. With his strength, he did not know how many giant beasts he would have to kill to earn enough military merits. Besides, the Celestial Terminus Ancestral Land was so disgusting. Why would he work for them? This was not Tianyan's style. If he wanted to be ruthless, he would be ruthless. Soon, the Star Apostles in the palace quickly left the place and took star boats to the corresponding areas. Only Tianyan did not leave. The Star Apostles even tried to persuade Tianyan to go with them, but he refused. Some Star Apostles shook their heads, thinking that Yi Tianyan was courting death. He was not weak, but there were more experts in the celestial terminus ancestral land. He is still not leaving. It seems that he wants to stay here until he dies. God knows. The celestial terminus ancestral land is much stronger than the Thunder Shadow Temple Master. He is strong, but facing the entire celestial terminus ancestral land, he is courting death. What a pity. It's rare for him to save us, but he is a little stubborn. The Star Apostles sighed. They felt that Yi Tianyan was throwing an egg at a rock. Even his unique star idol was meaningless. However, their vision was indeed too low. This unique star idol was really Yi Tianyan's capital. As long as he shouted to the outside world, many people from the celestial terminus ancestral land would extend an olive branch to him. However, they did not know that Yi Tianyan did not have a slave imprint. After they left, Yi Tianyan hid in a corner and paid close attention to the situation here. He also absorbed the pure star power here and obtained star energy points. Without killing any enemies, this was the best way to earn EXP. Many a little makes a mickle, and it was better than nothing. As time passed, there were more and more star apostles in the palace. They were all very confused and did not know what was going on. After coming up, they arrived at an unfamiliar place. Without anyone to guide them, they wandered around like idiots. Yi Tianyan did not go out to help guide them and let them do whatever they wanted. Finally, after many years, an unfamiliar star boat flew over. They're here. Yi Tianyan's eyes flashed, and he said with a smile, "They're here to deliver experience. I wonder what level of expert they will send this time." Chapter 1864. The star boat soon landed. The star apostles on the ground stared blankly at it, wondering who would get off the star boat. Then 3 figures walked out of the boat with powerful auras. As soon as they appeared, they were pushed back and out of breath. Why aren't there any guards in the Thunder Shadow Palace? Where did they all die? The leader of the group was a burly man covered in rocks. The golden rock star Dharma idol could be faintly seen behind him. As soon as the Dharma form appeared, it pressed down on them like a mountain, making it hard for them to breathe. His name was Kim Yenyong, and he was a middle-stage star master. He was even stronger than the Thunder Shadow Temple Master and the others. The golden rock star had a terrifying weight, which could crush people to death with its terrifying weight. However, its grade was not very high, only at the 3rd level. Level 4 and above were very rare. Most of them were at level 3, which was already considered very good. After all, compared to the 3rd level, there were many more 2nd-level star Dharma forms. Generally speaking, it would be good if there was 1 in 10,000 people with a 3rd-level star Dharma form. It was 1 in 10,000. As for the 4th-level star Dharma idol, it was raised to 1 in a million. Its rarity was even more shocking. As for the 5th-level star Dharma forms, they were even rarer. Judging from their state, they must be of high status. Yeah, where are the guards? We've already sent people down to investigate, but there was no movement at all. Now, it seems that something has really happened here. The other man's body was red, as if he were surrounded by flames. If you looked closely, you would see that it was a fire spirit snake wrapped around his body. He was the Dharma form of the fire spirit snake star, an early-stage star master, and also a 3rd-level star Dharma form. His name was Dingxi. What are you looking at? Kneel down. The other man was a yellow-skinned Dharma form of the Earth Dragon star. The looming Earth Dragon behind him was the best proof. This overbearing and arrogant man was called Xiu Shilong. Hearing this order, the star apostles from the lower world knelt down one after another. They were all branded as slaves, so they could only obey and kneel. They jumped off the star boat and glanced around. Kim Yenyong, who seemed to be their leader, frowned and said, "There really isn't a single guard here. Everyone seems to be walking around at will. From the look of it, something big must have happened. Let's go in and take a look." Just as they were about to walk into the palace, a group of star apostles were kneeling at the entrance. When Kim Yenyong and the others approached, their aura surged and they were sent flying. "Get lost, don't block the way." Kim Yenyong and the others had disgusted expressions on their faces. They were the ones who had made Xing Tu kneel on the ground, but now they were saying that they were blocking the way. It was extremely disgusting. However, this was their personality. Even if they were in the wrong, they would not admit it. The group of star apostles who had been sent flying had only suffered minor injuries. After all, he had only used his aura to push them away and not directly attack them. If they attacked directly, they wouldn't be able to survive no matter how many lives they had. Their faces were filled with terror, but they were mostly filled with anger. However, there was nothing they could do to resist. Regardless of whether it was in terms of strength or slave imprints, they were the type that couldn't be resisted. After Kim Yun-young and the others entered, they walked around and immediately understood what was going on. All the guards are gone, and even the palace master is missing. Kim Yun-young and the others frowned. No wonder there hasn't been any news. The 2 patrol envoys that were sent here are also missing. Could it be that other forces sneaked in and killed our people? That's the only possibility. It can't be those lowly natives who killed them, right? They all have slave imprints on them, so they didn't even have the chance to resist. Dingxi felt bored and kicked the star apostle who was kneeling at the side. He was half dead from the kick, and it looked like he was about to die. Look, it's obvious that the slave imprints are still there. It's definitely not that the slave imprints have disappeared. Dingxi shook his feet and released some flames to clean his feet. He felt that he had dirted his feet by kicking them away. Looks like this matter has to be reported quickly. I thought that there was a dereliction of duty here, but it turns out that such a big thing has happened. But what's the point of them killing the guards and palace master here? Nothing has changed here. It's just that some guards and palace master are dead. Kim Yun-young frowned. He really couldn't understand. Who knows? Dingxi spread his hands. Anyway, we were in charge of investigating. Now that we know the situation, it's time to go back and report. Just as they were about to turn and leave, the star apostle gathered his courage and asked, What exactly is going on? Are we going to stay here forever? Or are you not going to bring us along? Dingxi turned his head and looked at this person. His expression was calm and didn't seem to be affected at all. The next second, he quickly waved his hand, and flames swept out, engulfing a group of star apostles. Screams came from within the flames. You lowly natives, how dare you speak to me in such a tone? Dingxi sneered. I'll let you have a good taste of these flames. I hope you'll be smarter in your next life and don't make such a stupid mistake. The other star apostles shrank back. They were all top experts from the lower domain, but they suddenly realized how powerless they were. There was no way they could defend themselves. They looked at the group of star apostles being burned to ashes. They were clearly chatting just a moment ago, but in the next moment, they were burned to ashes. Boom. At this moment, the palace doors slammed shut. The only exit of the Thunder Shadow Palace was sealed just like that. A figure appeared at the exit and looked at them coldly. Lowly natives. As expected, the cultivators of the celestial pole ancestral land are all the same. Disgusting. Who gave you the courage to speak like that? Dingxi was furious. The flame dharma behind him swept out and engulfed Yi Tianyan. He didn't hold back at all. Just when they thought that Yi Tianyan would also be burned to ashes, an even more shocking flame shot out from the flames and engulfed Dingxi. In an instant, Dingxi was burned through. The terrifying flames continued to burn his body. Even Dingxi's companions were frightened by the horrifying scene. Those who played with fire were burned by the flames. What was going on? Ah, the power of these flames. Dingxi shook his body violently, trying to shake off the flames. By the time he shook off the flames, his body had already been burned. It was a horrible sight. Chapter 1865. Yi Tianyan walked over step by step. Dingxi's body had been burnt black by his flames, and he was shivering at the side. Dingxi felt a terrifying power surging out from Yi Tianyan's body. It was the power of a superior, a power that was absolutely above him. It made his bloodline feel powerless, and he wanted to kneel down and kowtow. This feeling was something he would only feel when he met someone at the level of Grandmaster Xing. But now, it had appeared on a nameless kid. Who are you? Kim Yun-young's eyes narrowed as he watched Yi Tianyan walk over. He had a bad feeling. It was the same flame, but it could burn Dingxi. Normal flames couldn't burn Ding Shi. The snake scales on his body had amazing fire resistance, so it was naturally difficult to burn him. But now, it was easily burned through, which meant that the level of flames released by Yi Tianyan far surpassed Ding Shi's flames. Who am I? Aren't I the lowly aboriginals that you speak of? Yi Tianyan smiled as he walked over. He glanced at them and said, "What a coincidence. I didn't think that there would be two of you with the bloodline of the dragon race." As soon as he finished speaking, the five-colored Emperor Dragon's star dharma erupted, and an all-around suppressive force caused their star dharma to dim and lose its luster. Ding Shi's and Xiao Shilong's star dharma immediately shrank back. As long as they had the bloodline of the dragon race, they would be crushed. The level suppression was enough to easily kill them. Ding Shi's snake bloodline actually had the bloodline of the dragon race. Hence, when he met Yi Tianyan, he felt a sense of powerlessness. Yi Tianyan had only released a little bit of the five-colored Emperor Dragon Dharma, and it was enough to make Ding Shi feel powerless. The other was Xiao Shilong. He had the bloodline of the Earth Dragon, which was even more tragic. Ding Shi was just a touch. The Earth Dragon belonged to the same race. Facing the five-colored Emperor Dragon Dharma, the Earth Dragon Dharma actually shrank back. This is a unique stellar light avatar. You were the one who caused the phenomenon back then. When they felt this aura, they immediately knew what was going on. They knew that the previous situation was caused by Yi Tianyan. So you're saying that you killed all the palace masters and guards in the Thunder Shadow Palace? Kim Yunyong's gaze froze. That's right, but there's no prize. Yi Tianyan continued to walk forward, step by step. He did not release any power, but the three of them were forced to retreat again and again. They did not dare to approach Yi Tianyan. Just his aura alone was enough to suppress them, preventing them from getting any closer. They were not only afraid of the five-colored Emperor Dragon, but also Yi Tianyan's terrifying aura. Yi Tianyan's cultivation wasn't much higher than theirs, but their natural sense of danger told them that Yi Tianyan wasn't easy to deal with. Why are you doing this? If possible, our celestial pole ancestral land can give you an extremely high status and abundant resources. I'll give you all the resources I have. No matter what you want, you can get it. Kim Yunyong was very curious as to why Yi Tianyan would do this. Doing so would only cause him to be hunted down by the celestial pole ancestral land. It's very simple because I don't want to be your pawn. It's that simple. Yi Tianyan smiled faintly and said, "The one who tried to rope me in was the Thunder Shadow Palace Master, but I've already killed him. It seems like the negotiation has failed." Kim Yunyong looked at him and said, "Or in other words, you've been planning to kill us from the beginning. No wonder you hid behind the door and closed the door. You knew that there was no way to send a message out, so you wanted to do it secretly. But it's useless. Even if we can't send a message out, we'll soon send more people over when there's no news from us. By then, I'm afraid there won't be just a few people. Maybe even Grandmaster Xing will come. By then, your unique star law will be useless. If you're sensible, surrender obediently. No matter which force you come from, as long as you join us, we won't pursue the matter of killing the Thunder Shadow Palace Master or killing the Fire Lion." All the formations in the Thunder Shadow Palace were set up very well. Even if there wasn't a shielding formation, there would still be a shielding effect. As a result, any message wouldn't be able to be sent out. One could only send a message outside. Or there was a transmission formation inside that could be used to send a message out. I know about this. If you don't send a message back, they'll still suspect this place. I've known about this for a long time, but they definitely won't send a lot of people at once. As for that Grandmaster Xing, I think his level is too high. If he wants to send someone in this corner of the mountain, he'll only come over if there's a huge impact, right? Yi Tianyan looked at them and said with a smile, "Not only that, I also know what the three of you are plotting. Do you want to seal me off from all angles, or do you want to launch a sneak attack on me? Bring it on, don't waste time talking. Go." Kim Yunyong and the rest didn't waste time talking. They kept talking to waste time. However, they really wanted to convince Yi Tianyan. It would be great if he could join them, but if he couldn't, they could only use force. In the next second, the three of them quickly surrounded the area beside Yi Tianyan. The three of them had a tacit understanding with each other. Originally, they had a very close relationship. They often went through fire and water, so they had a tacit understanding when they fought. Just as they set up the formation, the star laws behind them were immediately released. After the three great star laws combined, they actually formed a huge fusion star laws. This fusion star laws looked very unique. A dragon and a snake coiled around a huge rock, and it could crush towards Etianyan at any time. You're too naive. Do you really think your star laws are invincible? You're really stupid. If you give us enough time, even Grandmaster Xing will have to be wary of you. Kim Yunyong laughed coldly and said, to be able to suppress a demon with a unique star laws will be a small capital for us to talk about in the future. Etianyan looked at their arrogant faces. Etianyan shook his head and laughed. What a bunch of idiots. I thought you were different from Laying Temple Master. Now it seems that you're all equally stupid. Now I'll let you know why I made you prepare for so long. The main thing is that it's all in vain. There's no point in letting you prepare. Etianyan took a step forward and snorted coldly. All of you back off. With a roar, the huge shadow of the five-colored Emperor Dragon burst out and instantly overshadowed their fusion shadows. Woo woo woo. The shadows of the Earth Dragon and the Spirit Snake were so frightened that they dispersed. They didn't even have time to shrink back before they were shattered by the five-colored Emperor Dragon's star laws. Chapter 1866. Xiao Shilong and Ding Shi weren't in such a miserable state, but they were in a terrible situation because they had gathered into a formation and their energies had fused together. Now that the two astral aspects had retracted, their strength had weakened, causing them to lose their balance. Kim Yunyong didn't have any problems, so the energy he had released crashed into the two astral aspects and sent them flying. To put it bluntly, their injuries had been caused by their companions, not by Etianyan. The two of them were sent flying, and the Star Apostles were dumbfounded. They had thought that Ding Shi and the others were heaven-defying enough, but they hadn't expected a mysterious powerhouse to appear out of nowhere and seem even more heaven-defying. I've already said that your levels aren't enough. There's no point in letting you prepare yourselves. Etianyan laughed when he saw this. He had already predicted this outcome, and he had known it from the very beginning. What kind of combination formation was it? It was extremely effective in most situations, but there were also some special circumstances that would cause them to be seriously injured. For example, the current situation was the best example. They didn't need to expend much energy, and just the level suppression alone was enough to cause them to suffer. Obviously, they hadn't realized this and had thought that their astral aspects were being suppressed. If they released a little more, they wouldn't be afraid at all. Who knew that this wasn't just a suppression of bloodline? It was also a suppression of the same race. Being suppressed by the same race was the most terrifying thing. They didn't even have the strength to resist against someone with a higher bloodline, and they were forced to kneel on the ground. Etianyan laughed as he charged towards Ding Shi and the others. As if he were stepping on ants, he trampled them to death with a single stomp. Even though they had been sent flying and could barely crawl back up, he crushed them with a single stomp. He didn't need to expend much energy to easily crush them. He couldn't help but want to laugh when he saw this opponent with the dragon bloodline. It would have been fine if it had been anyone else, but if it was someone from the same race, then they were basically giving away their star energy. Kim Yunyong was fine. His name had the word dragon in it, but he didn't have the slightest bit of the dragon bloodline, which allowed him to successfully escape. However, this escape was only temporary. Now that his two companions were dead, wouldn't it be easy for him to take care of the rest? This is bloodline suppression. Just what kind of Dharma idol is this, to have such an effect? Kim Yunyong was stunned. This was the first time he had seen his two companions being suppressed so easily without any resistance. That's why I said that you guys are too ignorant. Do you really think my star Dharma idol is just a decoration? If we hadn't attacked together, I would have had to expend more energy. But now you've helped me and allowed me to get rid of you so easily. I have to say, I really have to thank you. Etianyan smiled and walked over. The five-colored Emperor Dragon behind him surged, ready to fight at any time. Kim Yeonyong's cultivation was at the middle stage of the Star Master realm, which was a realm higher than Yi Tianyan. His battle prowess was also a notch higher. However, this advantage in cultivation was nothing to Yi Tianyan. Kim Yeonyong's face was gloomy, and the golden rock star idol behind him suddenly expanded. Layers of giant rocks stacked on top of each other, and a heavy energy pressed down on the surroundings. The gravity of the entire space rose sharply. The star disciples had just stood up when they immediately felt a terrifying power pressing down on them from above, forcing them to kneel on the ground. Some of them were even lying on the ground, unable to move. They were elites from the lower world, but now they could not even stand up. Previously, because of the lack of management, they were all arrogant and thought that they were invincible. Some of them even fought with each other here. Now all of them were kneeling on the ground, unable to even get up, which made them feel very powerless. Well, let me challenge you alone. Let's see how strong your unique star Dharma idol is. Kim Yeonyong did not back down, nor did he choose to escape. Instead, he chose to fight head-on with Yi Tianyan. In the next second, he rushed toward Yi Tianyan, and instantly appeared in front of Yi Tianyan. In a fight between experts, this distance could be covered in an instant. Tyrant Rock Fist. He simply and crudely attacked with his fists. His fists were covered with giant rocks, and as his fists approached, the gravity around Yi Tianyan increased tenfold. If it were not for the fact that the palace was very hard, the ground under Yi Tianyan's feet would have caved in. Kim Yeonyong was most proud of this gravity effect. No matter how fast his opponent was, under this gravity effect, his speed would be greatly reduced. At the same time, under this terrifying gravity, his fists were like picking up planets and smashing them. At this moment, Yi Tianyan also swung his fists to meet Kim Yeonyong's fists. Fist against fist, it was the most direct and violent attack. Idiot, how dare you fight against my fists? Under the superimposition of my golden rock star idol, strength is not as simple as it looks. Cripple that hand of yours. Kim Yeonyong's lips curled into a cold smile. He could almost see half of Yi Tianyan's body being smashed into pieces. Boom. When the fists collided, Kim Yeonyong's smile immediately froze. Then he felt his fist crack inch by inch. Following that, his arm, shoulder, and everything else started to turn into stone fragments that floated to the side. How could this be? Kim Yeonyong was sent flying by the punch and smashed into the hard wall, causing a cloud of dust to rise. What golden rock star? At the end of the day, it's just a strengthened version of the fusion of the power of earth and power of metal. Does he really think he's invincible? A faint golden glow appeared on Yi Tianyan's fist. Similarly, he had mobilized the power of metal and power of earth. The final result was an indestructible fist that could shake everything. Crash. A figure rushed out from the dust and dashed toward the palace gate. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that it was Kim Yeonyong. After Kim Yeonyong crawled to his feet, he did not hesitate to run toward the palace gate. He knew that he could not defeat Yi Tianyan, so he could only choose to run. His broken arm had already recovered, and it was not difficult for him to restore his physical body in the blink of an eye. However, the injuries he had suffered were still reflected on his face, pale. Monster, he's really a monster. Run, run, run. Kim Yeonyong was terrified. He had thought that he could withstand a few blows from Yi Tianyan, and even force him to retreat. Now it seemed that he had been too naive. The two of them were not on the same level at all. Just the star Dharma idol alone was enough to suppress him completely. Unless there was a huge gap between their cultivation levels, he would not be able to defeat Yi Tianyan. Hence he chose to run. His life was more important. You can't escape. Yi Tianyan's figure flashed, and a bright light appeared in front of Kim Yeonyong in the next moment. His speed was several levels higher than Kim Yeonyong's. It was impossible to escape in front of him. Chapter 1867. Kim Yeonyong knew that he could not defeat Luo Yunyang, nor could he escape. He had never felt this way before. In the celestial terminus ancestral land, he could get whatever he wanted. His status was not low. He could manage most of his subordinates, and no one dared to disobey him. Now he was beaten half to death and could not resist Yi Tianyan at all. Golden Rock Star, activate. Kim Yun-yong roared angrily. The golden rock star behind him quickly ignited, turned into golden powder, and was released. In the next second, his whole body shone with a golden luster. The gravity suddenly increased by several times, and the terrifying gravity effect became even stronger. Xing-tu, who was originally lying on the ground, was about to sink in from the pressure. Even his bones were making cracking sounds as they shattered bit by bit. None of the star apostles were standing. They were all lying on the ground, screaming in pain. After the explosion, Kim Yun-yong did not dodge. Instead, he rushed toward Yi Tianyan, trying to knock him away. Yi Tianyan stretched out his hand and slapped. It was still a sharp attack, and the power of the five-colored Emperor Dragon was released. Boom! This time, Kim Yun-yong was not sent flying. His body stiffened slightly, but there was no injury on the surface of his body. It's useless. Get out of my way. Kim Yun-yong roared and knocked Yi Tianyan away. His attack had been effective, but now it was ineffective. What a strong defense. It seems that this is the effect of using his star power. Yi Tianyan felt his palm go numb. When he saw the golden rock star behind Kim Yun-yong slowly dissipate, he knew that Kim Yun-yong had used the golden rock star to completely release the effect of the golden rock star. This was the same as burning one's soul. It could release a stronger power. However, this could easily lead to irreversible effects. In other words, the golden rock star could not recover and would only become weaker. If he wanted to return to his peak state, it would be extremely difficult. This was not something that could be recovered by consuming medicinal pills. Therefore, unless it was a critical moment, he would not be willing to take out his star aspect. However, the result was just as expected. With his powerful defense, Kim Yun-yong could be said to be invincible. Yi Tianyan's attacks were completely useless against him. However, Kim Yun-yong didn't want to waste any more time with Yi Tianyan. He knew that he wouldn't be able to hold on for too long with his star aspect. His current goal was to quickly escape from this place and rush out in one breath. Boom! Kim Yun-yong slammed the door of the palace with a deafening sound. However, the door was not knocked open. It was only slightly opened. The door was slightly secured by Yi Tianyan, so it would take some strength to break it open. At this moment, Yi Tianyan had already caught up with him. He swung his palm at Kim Yun-yong. The fierce five-colored Emperor Dragon roared angrily and charged at Kim Yun-yong. Kim Yun-yong completely ignored it and allowed the attack to land on his body. His foundation, the Golden Rock Star, was to strengthen his body's defense, not his power. Therefore, his counterattack was useless. It was better to just keep slamming the door. Boom! The sound of a palm striking a bronze bell rang out. Kim Yun-yong was sent flying by the palm. He slid a long distance back, and a faint palm print appeared on his body. Cough, cough, cough. Kim Yun-yong's eyes were filled with fear. I have already taken out my golden rock star. How can you still hurt me? It could only be said that Yi Tianyan's strength was too strong. He had injured Kim Yun-yong, who was almost invincible, with a single palm strike. You are really hard. I wonder how many palm strikes you can take? Yi Tianyan's palm surged with dragon power. He was ready to attack again at any time. It had to be said that Kim Yun-yong was too hard. If it were any other cultivator, he would have exploded with one palm strike. He had activated crazy mode and stacked the five-colored Emperor Dragon's star dharma power. With both stacked, he had finally hurt Kim Yun-yong. From this, it could be seen that Kim Yun-yong's star dharma power was really too hard. An ordinary star master would not be able to hurt him. At least a star master in the late stage, and a very strong one at that, would be able to hurt Kim Yun-yong. However, that was all. To completely break through Kim Yun-yong's defense, one would need to be at the star master level. This was the effect of taking out the star dharma power. For a short period of time, a star master's defense would be invincible. Kim Yun-yong paused for a while, then once again crashed into the palace's door, completely ignoring Yi Tianyan. Open all out. Kim Yun-yong clenched his teeth. Even the soul in his body was boiling and burning, raising the power to the maximum. In an instant, his power increased explosively again. His body emitted a dong-dong-dong sound. Layers of thick golden rocks attached to his body, becoming even harder. Tianyan did not dodge this time. Instead, he faced it head-on. He stretched out his hand and continued to slap. Dong. This time, Tianyan was knocked away. The web between his thumb and forefinger was numb. On the other hand, Kim Yenyong was completely fine. He continued to crash into the palace's door like a huge mountain. After crashing fiercely again, an opening was finally made in the door. Kim Yenyong took the opportunity to slip out. After Tianyan steadied himself, he quickly chased after him. You can't escape. Tianyan turned into a gust of wind and instantly caught up with Kim Yenyong. Kim Yenyong's defense was strong, but his speed was too slow. Tianyan easily caught up with him. Dong dong dong. This time, Tianyan continuously slapped Kim Yenyong a few times. However, that was all, and he was not injured. It's useless. No one can break through my defense. Unless Star Master comes, no one can break through it. Kim Yenyong laughed loudly. His eyes were filled with disdain. Your power is not bad, but it's still too far away. What unique Star Dharma power. In the end, you still can't hurt me, right? He couldn't hold on for too long in this state, but he could still hold on for a while. He wasn't worried that Tianyan would break through his defense. Kim Yenyong wasn't afraid of being beaten up. Anyway, Tianyan couldn't kill him now. In the short term, he wouldn't be able to hurt him. Under the double eruption, it was really hard to resist. This time, Tianyan didn't attack immediately. Instead, he stopped and looked at him. Is that so? Then I'd like to see how strong your defense is. Immediately, the five-colored Emperor Dragon Dharma power behind him suddenly soared. In an instant, Tianyan turned into a huge five-colored Emperor Dragon that reigned over all living things. When the Divine Dragon was born, all beasts would worship it. Roar. The dragon roared. In the blink of an eye, Tianyan turned into the five-colored Emperor Dragon and descended into the world. Chapter 1868. After Tianyan transformed into the five-colored Emperor Dragon, the domineering power of the true dragon enveloped the area. Fortunately, there were no demonic beasts around. Otherwise, they would have knelt and trembled in the face of this aura. Even those who were not part of the dragon tribe had to kneel in the face of this heaven-defying aura. Kim Yenyong was dumbfounded. They could not transform into the power of the Star Dharma body. To achieve this, one needed to have an extremely high degree of compatibility. In other words, one needed to have perfect communication with the power of the stars above. There were very few people who could do this. At most, they could communicate with 1/5 of the stars. Those who could achieve more than 50% compatibility could transform into the star body. As for those who could communicate perfectly and achieve perfect compatibility, there was no need to talk about the effects. However, those who reached this stage were few and far between. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. It could be said that those who had Star Dharma bodies of level 4 or 5 and above were not very capable. Those who could achieve perfect compatibility with these high-level Star Dharma bodies were the real experts. What shocked Kim Yenyong was that Tianyan had achieved such a high degree of compatibility only after obtaining the Star Dharma body. This was something he could not believe. He had possessed the Star Dharma body for many years, but his compatibility had always been at 2/5, not even 50%. As for transforming into the star body, he was still a little short. Now he could only show half of the star body. According to legend, after achieving perfect compatibility with the star body, the Golden Rock Star would have a perfect absolute defense and reach a truly invincible state. Even if Grandmaster Xing or a Star Lord came, they would not be able to break it. During the release period, no attack would have any effect. This was equivalent to being in an invincible position. No one could hurt him. However, he only had less than half of the effect, but the effect was still very shocking. His amazing defense could not be broken by anyone below the level of Grandmaster Xing. However, compared to Tianyan, his compatibility was much worse. In particular, the higher the level, the more difficult it was to improve the compatibility. This was like a pet that was difficult to tame. It would take a long time to achieve a higher degree of compatibility. Therefore, he was shocked by Tianyan's state. It would take at least 10,000 years for Tianyun's star Dharma idol to reach a decent level of compatibility. However, it had only been a few years since the last appearance of the star Dharma aspect. How could it have reached such a state already? This is impossible. He can actually transform into the star body. Kim Yenyong stared blankly at Tianyun, his heart filled with shock. Dragon descends to the world. Tianyun stared down at the land with an arrogant gaze. A huge dragon claw pressed down, enveloping the entire world. Kim Yenyong didn't even have a chance to dodge before he was flattened by the dragon claw. When he raised his dragon claw, the golden rock on Kim Yenyong's body, which was said to be indestructible, was also smashed into powder. Now, Kim Yenyong looked as if he had been stripped naked. He was lying on the ground covered in blood, and there wasn't a single bone in his body that was intact. Although the physical body could quickly heal, it wasn't so easy when the soul was injured. Cough, 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 as expected of the unique power of the star Dharma power. After transforming into the star body, your power is already at the level of Master Xing. Kim Yenyong laughed bitterly and said, "It seems that I can't escape, but you can't escape either. I have already transmitted the information here. Even your appearance and aura have been transmitted. You can't escape." Tianyun reverted to his original form and transformed into the five-colored Emperor Dragon, which consumed a lot of energy. He came to Kim Yenyong's side and said with an indifferent expression, "Oh, I expected this. You rushed out so anxiously, because you wanted to ask for support. Then you wanted to waste my time and wait for your support to arrive." He had seen through it from the beginning. This guy couldn't escape from his control, so he could only ask for support. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so calm later on and would fight him head-on. It's useless even if you know. Cough, cough, wait for your death. No matter which force you escape to, you will be hunted down. Kim Yenyong laughed loudly. Even if he died, he would dare to face it. Really? What if I choose to join the celestial terminus ancestral land? Wouldn't you die in vain? Tianyun said with a smile. Kim Yenyong's smile froze. This was really not a problem. As long as Tianyun chose to join, the higher-ups would ignore the loss and immediately recruit him for their own use. After all, an existence with a unique star Dharma power was really much stronger than them. Not to mention the death of one palace master. Even if 100 palace masters died, it wouldn't matter. After all, Tianyun alone was equivalent to thousands or even tens of thousands of palace masters. Powerful strength was the best guarantee. Of course, I won't join your disgusting celestial terminus ancestral land. Tianyun said indifferently. No matter how many reinforcements come, I will kill them one by one. No matter how many comes, I will kill them all. Hahaha, really ignorant. Just because you can deal with me and transform into Xing Chen, you think you are invincible? Kim Yenyong seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world and laughed loudly. One Grandmaster Xing can slap you to death. Not to mention our celestial terminus lord. He can crush you to death with one finger. When Tianyun transformed into Xing Chen just now, his strength had indeed reached the level of Grandmaster Xing. Otherwise, it would really be difficult to break through Kim Yenyong's defense. However, he was only at the initial level of Grandmaster Xing. Moreover, he was at the level of Grandmaster Xing who didn't use star Dharma power. The gap between the two was like a chasm, not that easy to deal with. Of course, if you beg for mercy like a dog, I will let you off immediately. I really hope you won't beg for mercy. Kim Yenyong laughed coldly. He couldn't wait for Tianyun to die. As for adding another powerhouse to the celestial terminus ancestral grounds, he didn't care about that at all. Right now, he only wanted to kill Tianyun, but he couldn't do it with his current strength. It was difficult for him to even get up now. Don't worry, I will never beg for mercy. It's just that you won't be able to see it for the rest of your life. Tianyun stepped over Kim Yenyong and crushed it, easily killing Kim Yenyong. Successfully killed Kim Yenyong. Obtained 128,000 star energy points. Obtained Golden Rock Planet and Golden Rock Armor. 128,000 star energy points. As expected of a mid-stage Star Master, Tianyun was very satisfied. That much star energy would be enough for him to break through again. It would be extremely difficult for others to break through, but for him it was extremely easy. Looks like this is going to be troublesome. I've already reported everything. I wonder what kind of powerhouse will be sent. Grandmaster Xing? Yi Tianyun clenched his fists and looked up at the void in the distance. He calmly said, "No matter how many come, I'll destroy them all." Chapter 1869. Yi Tianyun did not choose to leave. He did not dare to gamble that he could not find out what was going on. After all, among so many worlds, only his world did not have an artifact spirit. If there were no problems, he might not have to guard this place. However, there were no ifs. He had already destroyed the artifact spirit. If he did not destroy the artifact spirit, the rules would be the same as before, which was something he did not want to see. There was no such thing as regret in his dictionary. What was done was done. Even if it was wrong, it had to be done to the end. Moreover, he did not do anything wrong. He did not want to be a slave. There was nothing wrong with what he did. Especially if he became a slave, and he would definitely die. This kind of slave was obviously the kind that would exhaust you to death. It would take tens of thousands of years just to exchange for freedom. If you made some contribution, you would be sent to the danger zone. Wouldn't you be doomed? If you really survived, you could only say that you were lucky. Then Yi Tianyun told the Star Apostles to leave this place. The longer they stayed, the more dangerous it would be. After all, when the experts came, they would not care about other lives. They had always treated lives like dogs and would kill at will. Naturally, they would not care about these low-level Star Apostles. After knowing the truth, the Star Apostles left obediently. They were angry, but there was nothing they could do. I wonder what kind of experts will be sent. Yi Tianyun did not hide in the palace, but outside it, just like before. He had to observe the situation. Anyway, he could use the teleportation divine stone to enter. If the chaotic realm was checked, it would be dangerous. He would use the teleportation divine stone to kill as many people as he could. At the very least, he would take a group of people with him. He could not go in, but once the formation was opened and people went down, he would be able to kill them. By then, he would save as many people as he could. However, this was just a pessimistic thought. He hoped that they would not find out. At the same time, a group of elders and deacons from the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land jumped up. After hearing the news, they were all dumbfounded. The genius with the unique star Dharma is hiding in the Thunder Shadow Palace? That's strange. Why would he be in the Thunder Shadow Palace? Where did he come from? Which corner did he come from? Could it be that he came from the lower bound? Impossible. How could those trashy natives from the lower worlds have such a powerful Dharma idol? None of them believed that a unique Dharma Laksana, which had appeared out of nowhere, had come from the lower worlds. They refused to believe it no matter what. All along, the talent of the star disciples in the lower realm was obvious to all. The highest talent was only at the second level, and those at the third level were extremely rare. If they were to believe that he came from the lower realm, they would not believe it no matter what. They would only believe that he came from another faction. As for killing the Laying Temple Master, they had no such thoughts. They were all focused on how to recruit Yi Tianyun. Then we'll send someone to recruit him now. I heard that he's quite resistant. Could it be that he has a grudge against us? No matter what kind of grudge you have, if you offended him, drag all of them out to apologize or pay with their lives. This was a unique star Dharma idol. That arrogant ghostly ancestral land, with a level 6-star law idol, is so arrogant that we can't even breathe. That's right. A unique star Dharma idol is even more heaven-defying. That's a legendary existence. No matter the cost, we must recruit him. All the elders were determined to recruit him at all costs. Even if any of their disciples offended him, they would drag them over to apologize or even pay with their lives. This was what it meant when one's talent was not good enough. They were like ants that could be killed at will. That's enough, we can't let him live. At this time, an elder walked out. When the other elders saw him, they bowed respectfully and shouted, "Greetings, Great Elder Yao Yuan." They were very respectful of Great Elder Yao Yuan. As a great elder, his strength was definitely not weak. He had reached the peak of the Star Master level, and was half a step into the Star Lord level. It could be said that he belonged to the strongest level apart from the Celestial Terminus Lord. If he was not strong, he would not have become a Great Elder. Great Elder Yao Yuan nodded. He was very satisfied with their attitude. Great Elder Yao Yuan, why is that? He is in existence with a unique Star Dharma idol. He will definitely be a demon in the future. Immediately, an elder stood up and asked. Such a demon genius had to stay no matter what. We can't let him live. If he stays, he will be a scourge. He might even be a spy from another faction. Great Elder Yao Yuan smiled coldly. I believe that the palace masters and the subordinates they sent there must have tried to recruit him, but they were all killed. Either he has a grudge with our celestial terminus ancestral land that cannot be resolved, or he is a spy from another faction. Great Elder Yao Yuan's words made sense. After everyone heard them, they all nodded. Does the celestial terminus Lord know about this? One of the elders could not help asking. Great Elder Yao Yuan's gaze turned cold as he stared at that elder. That elder took a few steps back, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. The celestial terminus Lord is in closed-door cultivation for now. However, I believe he will make the same decision. Great Elder Yao Yuan waved his hand and said, I will take responsibility for everything. Send someone to kill him now. There is no need to capture him alive. The elders exchanged looks and nodded. This person should be a middle-stage Star Master, or a late-stage Star Master. If he can kill Kim Yunyong, he must be a middle-stage Star Master or a late-stage Star Master. Then send someone at the Star Master level to suppress him. Should we send 2 law enforcers? The elders were all Star Masters. However, the law enforcers had always been responsible for patrolling the major areas. Their cultivation was at the early-stage Star Master level, so they could deal with many emergencies. In their opinion, it should not be a problem for them to deal with Tianyan. Especially since they were sending 2 law enforcers, it would be enough. Great Elder Yao Yuan shook his head and said sternly, Do you think it is bad to have only 1 Star Dharma idol? Send out all the law enforcers. All the law enforcers? The elders gaped in shock, and then one of them said, If that's the case, there will be 5 of them. That will leave the other areas of the ancestral land unsupervised. If you think it is too many, you can go personally. Great Elder Yao Yuan looked at them sharply. The elders shook their heads. They wanted to go personally if they wanted to recruit him, but they were not willing to kill him. It would be great if such a monstrous genius could become their disciple. It would be a pity to kill him. They did not want to see such a scene. In the end, they decided to send 5 law enforcers, and the meeting ended. After the elders left, Great Elder Yao Yuan sat on a chair and said coldly, I don't know where he came from, but it is better to kill him. If he is alive, he will only fight with me for the position. Chapter 1870. Great Elder Yao Yuan's selfishness could be seen everywhere in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. Ordinary low-level cultivators could be ignored, but high-level cultivators such as Great Elder Yao Yuan would be very vigilant. Those with unique Star Dharma forms would usually become Star Lords, who were the masters of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. Under normal circumstances, if there was no threat, Great Elder Yao Yuan would definitely succeed. Now that a monstrous genius had appeared, it would be a great threat to him. He would definitely want to get rid of such a great threat. According to his talent, Tianyan would definitely inherit the position of Star Lord. Even if his current cultivation was not as high as his, what about hundreds or thousands of years later? Monstrous talents could advance by leaps and bounds. Especially when combined with huge resources, it would be normal for them to surpass him. In particular, the Empyrean Terminus Lord would not be in a hurry to abdicate. When he did, Tianyan would definitely surpass him. Even if he didn't surpass him, he would smoothly become the successor. After all, with his talent, he would have greater achievements in the future. It was needless to say who the Empyrean Terminus Lord would choose. No matter what his purpose is, this guy must be eliminated. Great Elder Yao Yuan had sent out 5 law enforcement patrollers, which was quite a big move. He hoped to eliminate Tianyan completely, So he had sent out so many law enforcement patrollers. He didn't want any loopholes. 5 Star Masters were dispatched. The weakest was an early-stage Star Master, and the strongest was a middle-stage Star Master. This was definitely a lineup without any loopholes. Even if the opponent was a Star Master, it would be able to suppress them. While they were planning to send people to eliminate Etianyan knew nothing about it. He just hid and waited. He didn't have to wait too long. Soon starboats flew over. This time there were 2 of them, and they arrived almost at the same time. However, they came from different directions and landed outside the Thunder Shadow Palace at the same time. Soon, figures walked out of the starboats, imposing and domineering. A sharp murderous aura spread out in all directions. Deep in their eyes, there was a scarlet light flashing, and there was not the slightest smile on their faces. They were all law enforcement patrollers of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. For example, if there were any conflicts between Star Apostles or Star Masters, as long as there were conflicts, they would all be killed. This was especially so for those Star Apostles from the lower domain. They had killed countless people who disobeyed their orders. Although they had the slave imprint, there were still some who didn't follow the rules. They acted recklessly without orders. For example, they would kill other Star Apostles, secretly hide various kinds of ores, or rush to kill other local cultivators. After all, without an order, the slave imprint would not take effect. Under such circumstances, some of the Star Apostles went crazy. It was not impossible for them to kill some local cultivators before they died. Then there were the treasures that were hidden away. This could also be triggered and killed. In short, any Star Apostle who violated the rules would be killed without mercy. The Star Apostles who had ascended from the lower domain had set many rules. Violating any one of them was a capital offense. As enforcers, they would punish those Star Apostles who violated the rules. They did not know how many Star Apostles from the lower worlds had been killed like chickens and dogs. Enforcer Dark Ghost, you're here too? One of them said expressionlessly. Yes, Enforcer to you. I just arrived too. I heard that all the law enforcement patrollers were gathered here to kill a young man with a Star Dharma form. His cultivation is only in the late stage of Star Master? Isn't this too exaggerated? Even if he has a Star Dharma form, there is no need to go to such lengths, right? The Enforcer Dark Ghost shook his head and looked around the Thunder Shadow Palace in front of him, in case he missed anything. That's right. Why didn't you send me here alone? I'd be happy to kill a demon with a Star Dharma form. The Enforcer Tuyu smiled sinisterly. A Star Dharma form. Unfortunately, no matter how strong the Star Dharma form is, if your cultivation is too low, you won't be able to use it. Tearing a demon apart bit by bit is still a great sense of achievement. The Enforcer Dark Ghost agreed deeply. He nodded and said, "It is indeed exaggerated, especially when we have to wait for everyone to arrive. Do they think this young man is a prehistoric giant beast? His cultivation is so low. What can he do?" The Enforcer Tuyu shook his head. "I really don't know what the higher-ups are thinking. We can only act after everyone has gathered. The other 3 enforcers are so far away. I don't know how long it will take for them to rush here. By the time they all arrive here, I'm afraid they will have run away. Why don't we act now? It's a waste of time if we continue to wait like this." The Enforcer Dark Ghost was impatient. In his opinion, the 2 Star Masters could easily kill a Star Master in the late stage. With such a huge gap in cultivation, they could easily beat him up. "Okay, let's do that." The Enforcer Tuyu smiled and said, "When they come and find out that we have taken care of everything, what will their expressions be? This credit will definitely belong to us." With that, the 2 of them immediately acted. They first entered the Thunder Shadow Palace. As soon as they entered, they immediately saw a group of confused Star Disciples meditating. When they saw the 2 of them coming in, they all stood up. The Enforcer Tuyu stretched out his hand and grabbed one of the Star Disciples. He said coldly, "Where is he? Where is the cultivator with a Star Dharma form?" What cultivator with a Star Dharma form? I don't know anything." That Star Disciple didn't know what was going on. How would they know anything about a Star Dharma form? They hadn't even awakened the Star Dharma form, so they naturally didn't know anything. Bang! The star disciple was squeezed into a mist of blood. Then he grabbed another star disciple and said coldly, "Do you know anything?" Sir, we really don't know." Bang. Another star disciple was killed. It was as if they were slaughtering chickens and dogs, completely disregarding their lives. Even if they didn't know anything, they still had to kill him. They didn't even have any relationship with him. Yet they still had to be killed. It seems that they really don't know anything. Did that guy leave long ago? The enforcer Tuyu frowned. He had asked so many star disciples, but he didn't know a single one of them. Maybe he's not here anymore. It seems that we came here for nothing. The enforcer Dark Ghost shook his head, feeling very disappointed. He had thought that he would be able to tear Eteonian apart bit by bit, but he didn't even see a trace of him. What about this group of trash? The enforcer Tuyu turned his head and looked at the group of star disciples, who were trembling in fear, with a hint of anger in his eyes. Kill them all. Just to vent your anger? The enforcer Dark Ghost smirked as he looked at the group of star disciples. He just wanted to kill them to vent his anger. Chapter 1871. When the group of star apostles from the mortal world heard their words, they felt a wave of fear. They had not done anything. Why should they kill them? However, it was at this moment that they realized that their strength was truly too weak. They truly had no resistance at all. Facing them, it was difficult to even have the slightest bit of resistance. The murderous aura of the two law enforcers was enough to intimidate them. Even though they had been through a lot and had risen from the bottom, the difference in their cultivation levels made them feel that there was little hope. Why should they kill us? We have not done anything wrong. We just don't know where that person is, and what does that have to do with us? One of them could not help but stand up. He could not take it anymore. Haha, we just want to kill you. Why should we care about what you have done wrong? Ridiculous. The law enforcer laughed sinisterly. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too weak. After saying that, he stretched out his hand and a dark energy enveloped the group of star apostles. He lifted them up and continuously extracted their energy and absorbed it into his body. As time passed, the rate of absorption became faster and faster. Their bodies began to dry up. Their essence was about to be sucked dry, so they naturally became shriveled. TSK, the taste is average. Your cultivation levels are too low, but it's better than nothing. Come to think of it, I haven't had a good meal in a long time. The law enforcer licked his lips as if he was tasting a delicious meal. His star Dharma form was the Nether Ghost Star. It specialized in absorbing other people's essence and blood, and converting it into his own energy. However, if he absorbed too much, it would be difficult to convert it back. Therefore, he had to be careful and not absorb it at will. The cultivation levels of these star apostles were low. Even if he absorbed all of it, it would not affect him. Hee law enforcer Tuyu, it is rare for you to absorb so much normally. This time, you took advantage of a loophole and absorbed so much. How bold of you. The law enforcer Tuyu laughed, and did not stop the law enforcer Tuyu. Usually, the law enforcer Tuyu could not do this. After all, they were a group of laborers and could not be killed at will. Now it was different. They had not reported it, and were considered unregistered residents. Therefore, it did not matter how they were killed. Aren't you the same? When the time comes, you can deal with the corpses. The law enforcer Tuyu laughed sinisterly. Enforcer Tuyu loved to devour corpses, and absorb the essence of their bone marrow and soul. Thus, when the two of them worked together, there really wasn't a corpse left. One absorbed blood essence while the other devoured corpses. They were a perfect combination, and could be called an evil duo. What a pity. If that kid with the star law was still here, I would definitely suck him dry. The dark ghost enforcer revealed a pitiful expression. Such a high level of dharma, it must be very delicious, right? While they were discussing, this group of star apostles was gradually sucked dry, and they were about to become dried corpses. At this time, a figure suddenly floated behind the dark ghost enforcer. An astonishing light flashed and instantly crushed the dark ghost enforcer's head, turning it into a bloody mist. Not to mention his soul escaping, not even his dregs were left. What was left was a headless body that fell to the ground. The floating star apostles all collapsed to the ground, unable to even get up. Who is it? Enforcer Tuyu was shocked. He didn't even have time to react before his companion was killed. All that was left was his body. He hurriedly looked in that direction, only to see a gust of wind blowing in his direction. By the time he reacted, it was already a series of killer moves. In an instant, there were hundreds of moves, forcing him to retreat. What an amazing speed! Although the speed was amazing, Enforcer Tuyu was still able to withstand it. At the same time, he clearly saw the appearance of the cultivator who had launched a sneak attack. The one who had launched a sneak attack was, of course, Itianyan. While the Dark Ghost Enforcer's attention was focused on the Star Apostles, he immediately rushed over and launched a sneak attack on him. He had successfully launched a sneak attack on the Dark Ghost Enforcer and easily killed Master Xing. It's the unique star law. As soon as he saw it clearly, Enforcer Tuyu immediately felt the power of the unique star law. It was an existence that surpassed level 6, a level that was beyond reach. As enforcers, they were only at level 4. Compared to level 5 and level 6, they were at the bottom. In the face of the unique star law, there was no way they could compete with it. Even so, he still calmly withstood the killer moves. Each move was perfectly blocked, and he was even able to do it with ease. In the end, Enforcer Tuyu fiercely counterattacked and sneered. That's all you've got. Boom. A black moon rose behind him, and a power that could devour heaven and earth enveloped the space. All the living creatures in the space were being devoured by him. As soon as the Star Dharma idol was released, its power skyrocketed, and it grabbed Etienne's arm in one move. I've been waiting for you. Devour me and let me taste the power of the unique star law. A strong suction force surged from his palm, trying to suck Etienne dry. Enforcer Tuyu's ability was somewhat similar to the Dark Ghost Enforcer's, but his was more thorough and could even devour bones. Do you think you can devour me with this little bit of devouring power? Etienne snorted, and the 5-colored Emperor Dragon Star Law behind him roared angrily. The power of Enforcer Tuyu's Star Law stagnated and actually stopped. Taking advantage of this gap, Etienne flicked Enforcer Tuyu away, causing him to retreat a few steps. Etienne himself also flew backwards and landed steadily on the ground with a cold expression. It seems that facing Grandmaster Xing head-on is still a bit strenuous. Etienne had raised his cultivation to the Star Master late stage, but there was still a gap between him and Grandmaster Xing head-on. He attacked with all his might, and with his crazy mode, he still did not have much of an advantage. Grandmaster Xing's power was indeed different. As the name suggested, he could use the Star Law more thoroughly. The explosive power was more than 10 times that of a Star Master. On top of the original foundation, it was more than 10 times stronger. How could he compete? If one wanted to compare who was stronger, assuming that the Star Master late stage had 100 points of star power, then Grandmaster Xing would have 5,000 points. This did not include the awakening of the Star Law, but purely the basic value. Therefore, after superimposing the Star Law, the power was even more terrifying. It was precisely because of this that they felt that even if it was the unique Star Law, it was still extremely difficult to surpass levels. It needed to be combined with all kinds of power to achieve the effect of surpassing levels and killing. At least they felt that it was difficult for Etienne to have this kind of power. He had just obtained the Star Law, and his compatibility was so weak. Naturally, it was impossible for him to achieve the effect of surpassing levels and killing. Obviously, they had judged wrongly. Etienne's compatibility was far beyond their imagination. Chapter 1872. After Etienne bounced back, he began to gather his strength, ready to fight at any time. Tuyu Law Enforcer also looked at him vigilantly. He thought he could absorb a wave of energy, but unexpectedly he was bounced back. He couldn't even absorb a bit of energy, let alone absorb it. He could be called a miser who was stingy. It seems that you have some ability. No wonder they couldn't stop you even after sending several batches of experts down. Tuyu Law Enforcer was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, he looked around and said with a smile, "I don't know where you came from. Your cultivation is already at the level of a star master, but you haven't awakened the star law aspect until now. Awakening the star law aspect is not as late as possible. Obviously, you must have cultivated in seclusion somewhere. I don't know where your master is, but why did you awaken the star law aspect so late? Their guess was wrong. Seeing that Yi Tianyun's cultivation was at the level of a star master, they didn't think he was from the lower world. In fact, under normal circumstances, it was impossible to see the difference between the lower world and this native land. Only when they found out that he was from the lower world did they feel disgusted. Especially since he didn't have the slave mark. They felt that Yi Tianyun couldn't have come from the lower world. When Yi Tianyun heard their question, his eyes lit up. It seemed that these idiots had completely regarded him as a mountain that had come from some corner. In this way, even if he left, they wouldn't suspect that he was from the lower world. However, he was still worried that they would check the worlds one by one. If they saw that the weapon spirit had disappeared, they would definitely rebuild it, which would undoubtedly be more troublesome. Is this important? Yi Tianyun said with a faint smile. You won't try to rope me in like the others, right? Of course not. I was just asking casually. The higher-ups have given a death order. You must die. Tu law enforcer clicked his tongue and said, what a pity. Such a good talent, it's really a pity that you died like this. It would be great if you could transfer it to me. The unique star law aspect. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. It seemed that the situation had changed. He thought that the celestial terminus ancestral land would continue to rope him in at all costs. After saying so much to me, is this the reason you want to attack me? Yi Tianyun stomped his foot, and the five-colored Emperor Dragon Dharma rose up. With him as the center, the ground around him was swept up into a pitch-black darkness. A black moon bounced up from all directions. Unknowingly, the energy of the black moon had seeped into the surroundings, sealing off all escape routes. It was impossible for the Moon Butcher Enforcer to simply want to talk to him. He must be trying to divert his attention, and then secretly set up a formation to seal him off completely. Unfortunately, it was seen through by his appraisal eye. There was no special technique that could escape his appraisal eye. No matter how subtle the action was, he could see through it. Even if you find out, you're dead. When Enforcer 2 realized what he was thinking, he had already charged towards Yi Tianyun. His hand turned into a bony claw and grabbed towards Yi Tianyun. Even if you have a unique star avatar, your cultivation is too low. You will still lose. Is that so? Yi Tianyun smiled evilly, and his body made crackling sounds. Then, he instantly transformed into a huge five-colored Emperor Dragon, filling up the entire palace. The star apostles at the side were all stunned. Some of them had already hidden in the corners, or hidden in other passageways, and looked over. Dharma body. The Moon Butcher Enforcer was also stunned. Feeling this unparalleled power, an unprecedented sense of danger welled up in his heart. But it was all too late. By the time he reacted, Yi Tianyun, who had transformed into a five-colored Emperor Dragon, had already swung his dragon claw down. The strongest dragon claw power was simply and brutally pressed down. What dark moon space! What devouring space! Under this unparalleled power, they were all destroyed by the claw. It was not that the dark moon space was too weak, but that Yi Tianyun's power had an absolute effect that could suppress all other powers. This was the charm of the unique star avatar. It could suppress all star avatars that were weaker than him. Otherwise, there would not be so many people who would break their heads and rush to the higher star avatars. The key was that the difference in cultivation was not too big, which was why they could do this. Yi Tianyun's cultivation was a whole realm lower than the Moon Butcher Enforcer, but he had the crazy mode superimposed. With both superimposed powers, his power was enough to suppress the Moon Butcher Enforcer. In particular, there was also the Chaos Core, which complemented the five-colored Emperor Dragon's power perfectly. The Chaos Core contained the power of the five elements. This power flowed out and poured into the five-colored Emperor Dragon, releasing the five elements to their fullest. On top of this powerful foundation, there was also the 8 times damage of the crazy mode. In an instant he surpassed Master Xing's early stage. Die. Yi Tianyun pressed down heavily with his palm, crushing all of the Moon Butcher Enforcer's counterattacks. He was crushed along with the Moon Butcher Enforcer, and his blood splattered all over the ground. Not to mention being alive, even his soul would be crushed. He wouldn't be given any chance to escape. Successfully killed the Moon Butcher Enforcer. Obtained 1,280,000 star energy points. Obtained Black Moon Star and Moon Butcher Divine Claw. 1,280,000 star energy points. Killing a Master Shing was indeed different. Previously, he had obtained the same amount of star energy from killing the Dark Ghost Enforcer, but it had not been enough for him to break through to the level of a Master Shing. Now things were different. After killing 2 of them, he could immediately advance to the level of a Master Shing. The surging star energy points allowed him to level up too quickly. After killing so many cultivators in a row, he could even break through to the level of a Master Shing. Thinking back to when he was in the lower realm, killing so many evil spirits had given him very little experience. Once his cultivation increased, the number of points he needed to level up would reach an astronomical number. Naturally, it would be difficult to level up. Now that he had encountered someone with such a shocking cultivation, killing them still gave him that explosive sense of experience. Phew! Tianyan returned to his original state and took a deep breath. Every time he transformed into the star manifestation, it still consumed a lot of energy. It made him feel as if he was being drained, which meant that he could not maintain the state for too long. However, being able to maintain it for a while was enough. At the very least, he had taken advantage of the other party's carelessness and successfully killed them. At the side, a group of star apostles trembled as they watched Tianyan. They did not know if they would be killed. After all, he looked so savage, and who knew if Tianyan would do anything else? Tianyan could not be bothered to look at them. Instead, he turned his head to look outside the palace and smiled. Another enforcer has arrived. Very good. Chapter 1873. The 3 patrollers arrived at the same time. They had just come down when they asked curiously, "The other 2 patrollers are not here yet. The 3 of us are further away, but we can all arrive at the same time. Logically speaking, we should have arrived earlier. Could it be that they have already entered?" They were confused and turned their attention to the Thunder Shadow Palace. At this moment, Tianyan walked out of the Thunder Shadow Palace slowly and entered their line of sight. There's no need to look for them. They are already dead. Tianyan walked out. He did not choose to launch a sneak attack, but walked out directly. They are already dead? The Ding Peak Enforcer frowned and sized up Tianyan. Are you a guard here? How can you be so rude? Don't you know that we are patrollers? Their first reaction was not to ask clearly, but to show off their authority. I know you are patrollers, but I am not a guard here. Why should I be respectful to you? Tianyan laughed. Luckily, he did not join the Celestial Pole ancestral land. It was really impressive when they showed off their authority. He did not have much ability, but each of them was stronger than the other. You are not a guard here? They sized up Tianyan and asked coldly, "Who are you?" They would never have thought that Tianyan was a genius with a unique star dharma, mainly because his cultivation was only at the late stage of Star Master, not Star Master. They definitely could not believe that he had killed the Dark Ghost Enforcer, and the others. Don't you know who I am? Didn't you come here to kill me? Tianyan pointed at the Thunder Shadow Palace behind him and said, "They wanted to kill me and get the credit in advance. The result is obvious. The 2 of them have already gone down. Now it's your turn." How is that possible? You are only a late-stage Star Master, and you can deal with 2 enforcers? What a joke. The Ding Peak Enforcer still did not believe Tianyan's words. Tripod Peak Enforcer, ignore him. We'll know once we capture him and search his soul. The Sichuan Bao Enforcer had a fiery temper, and chose the most violent method. That's true. This is the simplest and crudest method. We'll know the truth after searching his soul. Another God 10 Enforcer nodded in agreement. Then let me capture him. No matter where he came from, to dare to be so arrogant in front of me. I wonder how many Star Masters' blood my hands are stained with. The Tripod Peak Enforcer opened the void and a huge cauldron rose from his back, turning into a huge cauldron that pressed down on Etienne's head. At this moment, a gravitational force descended from above, causing the ground to sink. This increased sense of gravity was somewhat similar to the Kim Yen-yong he had fought before. However, this giant cauldron was even more powerful. It was truly earth-shattering. How troublesome. I wanted to settle this once and for all. Since you want to go down first, I'll start with you. Etienne extended his hand and grabbed at the void. The image of the five-colored Emperor Dragon appeared. The unique power of the Star Dharma power immediately covered the radiance of the other party's Star Dharma power. Yes, it's the unique Star Dharma power. The one we want to kill is really him. The Tripod Peak Enforcer was stunned for a moment. He then said with a hideous expression, "With your strength, you can kill the two enforcers? What a joke. Suppress him." The Tripod Peak Enforcer believed that Etienne had the unique Star Dharma power. However, he still did not believe that Etienne could kill the two enforcers. It was simply a fantasy. The two enforcers nodded in agreement. Under the huge cauldron of the Tripod Peak Enforcer, Master Xing would definitely not be able to escape. He would be suppressed to the point where he could not even move. That's right. The last time the Tripod Peak Enforcer went to suppress one of the indigenous planets, the huge cauldron crushed billions of lives into minced meat. That scene was really amazing. The God 10 Enforcer was still talking about it enthusiastically. He was very impressed with the strength of the Tripod Peak Enforcer. But at this time, Etienne's aura that doesn't seem to be very strong. Suddenly his power skyrocketed from Star Master late stage to Star Master early stage. He easily jumped a big realm. It's almost like drinking water. Roar. The five-colored Emperor Dragon Star Dharma power suddenly increased in size by a few times. It even covered the huge cauldron in the void. The five-colored Emperor Dragon Star Dharma power opened its huge claws and smashed down. The huge cauldron Dharma power was smashed into smithereens. Pft! The Tripod Peak Enforcer vomited blood. His Star Dharma power was smashed into smithereens. Naturally, it affected his body. The Dharma power was almost equivalent to the body. Once the Dharma power was destroyed, the body would not be any better. After being smashed by the palm, he fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Without waiting for the Tripod Peak Enforcer to fall to the ground, the dragon claw smashed down again, smashing the Tripod Peak Enforcer into meat paste. Successfully killed the Tripod Peak Enforcer. Obtained 1,280,000 star energy points. Obtained Tripod Peak Planet, illusory gold cauldron. He had easily killed the Tripod Peak Enforcer. The two enforcers beside him did not even have time to react before they were killed as easily as if they were vegetables being chopped up. However, Etienne did not stop there. With a backhand, he attacked the other two enforcers. The five-colored Emperor Dragon Star Dharma power smashed down again. The two enforcers hurriedly summoned their own Star Dharma power to deal with this terrifying attack. However, it was already meaningless. The two law enforcers were smashed to the ground by the gigantic dragon claw, and they were crushed into meat paste. Successfully killed the God 10 Enforcer. Obtained 1,200,000 star energy points. Obtained Ancestral Peak Planet, God 10 feet. Why isn't there any experience from the other enforcer? Etienne raised his huge palm. What he saw was naturally two pieces of meat paste that had been smashed into the ground. They did not look the least bit alive. It was obvious that they were dead. However, he did not gain any experience from this. That enforcer was the Shu Bao Enforcer. He's not dead? Etienne narrowed his eyes and stared closely at the Shu Bao Enforcer's corpse. It looked no different from the God 10 Enforcers, but he did not gain any experience, which meant that he was not dead. Could he have been faking his death? Etienne's gaze shifted, and then he swung his palm at the Shu Bao Enforcer's corpse again. Violent flames swept over, wanting to burn the Shu Bao Enforcer completely. At that moment, the Shu Bao Enforcer instantly regenerated from the meat paste and sprinted outside. He looked like he was made of plasticine, and he quickly returned to his original state. This was obviously not a resurrection or anything like that. Instead, he was in a state of suspended animation to deliberately deceive the enemy. However, he could not deceive Yi Tianyan. He was immediately seen through and used the flames to burn him. Chapter 1874. When the Shu Bao enforcer regathered, he immediately chose to escape. Without any hesitation, he ran away. His speed increased exponentially, reaching the highest speed he could muster. What a monster! He's definitely a monster. How can he be at the level of awakening the star Dharma power? He must have awakened a long time ago. And his cultivation is at the level of a star master. How are we supposed to win? The Shu Bao enforcer cursed. This news was unbelievable. The awakening of the star Dharma power was usually at the level of a star apostle. The lower the cultivation, the better. If it was really at the level of a star master, it would still be acceptable. But now that Yi Tianyan was at the level of a star master, the explosive power made him feel the difference. They were not on the same level at all. Under such circumstances, he felt that Kim Yunyong was lying. How could he be at the level of a star master? But when the star Dharma power appeared, he also felt it. It must have been Yi Tianyan. Now he felt that it was ridiculous. Even if he had awakened at the level of a star master, how could his compatibility be so high after such a short time? More importantly, wasn't he just at the level of a star master previously? How did he suddenly become a star master? This made him even more confused. A series of questions made him focus on escaping. He did not dare to have any other thoughts. He had thought about turning around and killing Yi Tianyan before, but now he just wanted to escape. Although his hands were stained with blood, he did not want to die in the hands of others. He still had things to do. Most importantly, it was not easy for him to climb to this position. If he died just like that, he would have nothing left. What was faster than him was a ghostly figure. It flashed in front of him and slammed down with a huge palm. The ending did not change. No. The Shu Bao enforcer exploded with a palm. Just like his other companions, he exploded again. But this time, the huge palm contained flames that could burn everything. It enveloped the Shu Bao enforcer. Accompanied by a scream, the Shu Bao enforcer kept bouncing up from the ground, trying to reform to his original state. But the burning flames made it difficult for him to reform. Instead, he gradually melted. I surrender. I surrender. I'm willing to worship you as my master. I'm willing to serve you. Please don't kill me. The Shu Bao enforcer kept jumping around, wanting to extinguish the flames on his body, but it was meaningless. Just as he bounced back up, Yi Tianyan slapped him into a pile of minced meat. At the same time, the flames continued to nibble at him, trying to burn him dry. Interesting. Your starlight aspect can even make your life quite tough. The clay man's physique is quite unique. Yi Tianyan felt that this Shu Bong law enforcer was quite interesting. The Shu Bao enforcer's Dharma idol was the mud meteor. It could transform into a clay figurine and move around freely. Under such circumstances, being smacked flat by a normal attack would cause some injuries, but for the most part it wouldn't be a problem. It was just like a lump of mud. If it was flattened, it would at most be flattened, but with a slight pinch, it would return to its original state. It could be said that his HP was quite high, provided that he didn't have any fire attribute buffs. Pure physical attacks wouldn't have much of an impact. Yi Tianyan's attacks were all physical attacks, mainly flattening. Most people would not even have their bones left after being flattened, and even their souls would be flattened. However, the Shu Bao enforcer was different. His soul could become mobile, and it could provide the greatest protection. With so many flames burning, even the clay figurine would be charred. Ah, don't kill me. I don't want to die yet. I will always serve you. The Shu Bao enforcer screamed, still making his final struggle. Serve me? Waiting for you to betray me next time? Yi Tianyan laughed coldly. I don't need a disloyal dog. Die. The five-colored emperor dragon aspect behind him roared angrily, and flames that could burn the heavens swallowed the Shu Bao enforcer. In the blink of an eye, the Shu Bao enforcer was engulfed by the flames. As he screamed, the flames burned even more fiercely. Soon, the screams completely disappeared as the flames were extinguished. Ding! Successfully killed the Shu Bao enforcer. Obtained 1,280,000 star energy points. Obtained Mud Meteor. Just like before, he had obtained an astonishing amount of star energy points and a corresponding star. Other than that, the other items were harder to obtain. However, this was not important. Anyway, they all had the corresponding storage rings, and there were many treasures in the storage rings that were enough for him to use. I've killed all of them. Tianyun heaved a sigh of relief. After his cultivation had broken through to the level of Master Xing, it was easy for him to kill existences at the same level as him. However, the strongest one he was facing now was only a mid-stage Master Xing. However, even mid-stage Master Xing had been killed by his sneak attack. They did not even have the chance to display their true strength before dying. If he were to face a late-stage Master Xing, it would be more difficult. The five-colored Emperor Dragon's star aspect was not invincible. If there were too many levels above him, it would be extremely difficult to deal with him. At that moment, the other star apostles in the Thunder Shadow Palace looked at Tianyun in fear. They were even more worried that they would be killed by Tianyun, so they all hid in the corner. Tianyun glanced at them casually, then turned around and left. He did not talk too much with them. However, before he left, he threw out a jade slip, which contained the corresponding information about the situation of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. He would act according to what they wanted to do. He was not a goody two-shoes. It was impossible for him to arrange everything for them. The fewer people who knew about his situation, the better. Especially now, they all mistakenly thought that Tianyun was from a foreign force, or that he had emerged from some corner, and was not from the mortal world. Of course, he was not hiding. Instead, he went to the mine area. Previously, he did not have much power, and his cultivation was relatively weak. Naturally, he hid near the Thunder Shadow Palace and waited for his prey. Now it was different. His cultivation had increased to the level of Master Xing. At the same time, they did not know that he came from the mortal world. Therefore, he had another plan: to flatten the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. Anyone who dared to enslave him would be flattened, and no one would be left alive. Only by flattening the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land could he completely solve the problem here, and only then could he suppress the anger in his heart. Therefore, he targeted an area, which was the mine area. There were countless star apostles from the mortal world there. Once there was a riot, it would be enough to turn the entire Empyrean Terminus ancestral land upside down. In other words, his goal was to kill all the evil deeds of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. In the end, he would completely conquer the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. Chapter 1875. Dang dang dang. Ear-piercing noises could be heard coming from the hard ores. Many star disciples were digging the ores with specially made hoes in their hands. Their cultivation levels were heaven-defying, but that was only relative to the mortal realms. Every one of them was a well-known figure in the mortal realms, but now they were here mining. Mining seemed like a very simple job that anyone could do, but the ore here was completely different. It was extremely hard. Even a star master would not be able to easily break through the ore. Master Xing could break it, but he would also have to spend a lot of effort to do so. Therefore, these star apostles were all holding special hoes and digging out the ore bit by bit. Some had to work very hard to dig out an ore the size of a fingernail. Those who were luckier could dig out an ore the size of a fist. Every time they dug, it would take a few months to dig out 1 or 2 pieces. This was enough to prove how difficult it was to dig out. The ore in front of them was called a chaos stone. It was a combination of various energies. It could be used to refine weapons or cultivate. It was basically the hard currency of the ancestors' land. Because this kind of work required a lot of time, it was not worth it to ask Master Xing to come and dig. Therefore, they needed star apostles to dig. Those with lower cultivation levels were even harder to dig out, and those with higher cultivation levels were not worth it. Especially since they were a group of slaves. They were basically just giving everything they had in exchange for their freedom. They were originally free. Now that they had been captured as slaves, they were as angry as they could be. However, they had been engraved with a slave mark. They had no choice. They were very angry, but they did not even have the chance to resist. Here they only needed to say one word, and they had to obey orders without hesitation, even if they had to commit suicide. This was the effect of the slave mark. It was irresistible. If they wanted to regain their freedom, they either had to kill the caster or remove the slave mark. The chief caster was the celestial terminus lord. All the slave marks were set up by him, so he could order all the slaves. However, under the authority of the slave mark, they would be distributed to the corresponding managers. Among the managers with different responsibilities, there was a corresponding authority to command. For example, the team leader in the Thunder Shadow Palace could order them, and so could the palace master. However, once their cultivation surpassed that of the palace lord and the others, they wouldn't be able to command them anymore. Only those at the level of Grandmaster Xing could command them. Similarly, only captains or law enforcers could give orders. It wasn't something that any cultivator could command. Otherwise, they could do whatever they wanted. When will this day come to an end? Sigh, only God knows. Only by digging out a fist-sized ore could one obtain 1 military merit. One had to accumulate 100,000 military merit before they could exchange for their freedom. It's a nightmare. I can only mine every day, and it's hard for me to make a name for myself. I wonder when I'll be able to accumulate 100,000 military merits. It'll probably take me hundreds of thousands of years, right? Some of the star apostles started to complain as they mined. However, they only dared to complain softly, and did not dare to say it out loud. Pa! A long whip lashed over and sent one of the star apostles flying. His body was almost cut in half at the waist. Xing too, who had been sent flying, lay paralyzed on the ground. However, his body was slowly recovering. Logically speaking, it should have healed very quickly, but now, it was recovering extremely slowly. This was enough to prove that he was in a rather dangerous situation. And that was his energy deficit. What are you babbling about down there? Just do your work. A bunch of guys who haven't even awakened the Star Dharma idol are still talking about making a name for themselves? Just work hard and accumulate military merit. We'll talk about it when we get our freedom. The guard's expression was full of disgust and disdain. He looked down on these star apostles. He was also very ruthless and had almost killed the star apostle. I'm sorry, sir. I'll work hard to mine now. After a while, the star apostle who had been sent flying slowly got up. His body had already healed, and he could get up now. That's not enough. Slap yourself 1,000 times. The guard ordered. Pa pa pa. After the star apostle stood up, he couldn't control his body and kept slapping himself in the face. Every slap was very heavy. He didn't want to do that, but he couldn't control his body and kept slapping himself in the face. This was the effect of the slave mark. He couldn't resist it at all. If he slapped himself 1,000 more times, his head would be smashed. As a star apostle, how could his powerful slaps be weak? Hence, when he was about to faint, he naturally wouldn't continue slapping himself in the face. However, he had to complete the 1,000 slaps. He wouldn't faint, but after he woke up, he would continue to slap himself until he had completed the 1,000 slaps. The slave mark was so powerful that there was basically no way to resist it. On the other side, a star apostle in the late stage was silently digging at the side. He used all his strength every time. The number of hoes that had been broken by him was uncountable. Dangfeng, don't you want to take a break? Although it's more strict here, you can still take a break. Also, you've worked harder than most of the other miners. Even if you want to get your freedom faster, you don't have to be so ruthless, right? If you continue like this, I'm afraid your body won't be able to take it. The star apostle beside him tried to persuade him. The person he was trying to persuade was a burly man with scars all over his body. His face wasn't handsome, but he looked very resolute. Thank you for your concern, but I can't stop, and I don't want to stop. The star apostle named Dangfeng continued to dig hard. Sigh, is it for your hometown again? The star apostle beside him shook his head and sighed. Don't we want to do it for our hometown? But for our own freedom, we can't even find a way to do it. You're quite powerful. Why can't you awaken the Star Dharma power? No, they won't let me awaken the Star Dharma power at all. It's all because of my stubbornness. Ding Feng shook his head, but he didn't show any signs of regret. He continued to dig hard. I'll mine hard in exchange for my freedom, and then for the ownership of my hometown. Whether it's 100,000 years or 1,000,000 years, I'll make it come true. Ding Feng continued to dig hard without stopping. Even though his hands were already covered in blood, he still didn't stop. As long as it wasn't the limit of his limits, he wouldn't stop. The star apostle beside him sighed deeply. Such an expert was digging with them. It could only be said that the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land had made a mistake. Chapter 1876. When the news of the death of the 5 enforcers reached the ancestors' land, everyone was shocked. They did not expect the 5 enforcers to be dead. They were all Star Masters. Who knew they would die just like that? What's going on? Did that person not come alone? Did he have help? That's possible. He just awakened the Star Dharma. No matter how powerful the Star Dharma is, he can't kill a Star Master. Damn it, he must be here to cause trouble. Then wait for us. Send more people to wipe them out. I don't know what their purpose is, but anyone who dares to offend the Empyrean Terminus ancestors' land must be killed. The elders were all enraged and asked for help. Since the enforcers were useless, they had to take action. Grand Elder Yao Yuan was not so tense. He was relieved when he found out that Yi Tianyan was from another force. As long as he was from another force, he would not be a threat to his position. I knew it. He couldn't have appeared out of nowhere. He must have been sent by some force to cause trouble. That's why we decided to eliminate him instead of recruiting him. Grand Elder Yao Yuan said. Who knew we would send too few people? If we had sent more people, this wouldn't have happened. Grand Elder Yao Yuan, we were short-sighted to see the problem. They shook their heads. They really thought that Grand Elder Yao Yuan had made such a judgment. Since we don't know how strong the other force is, we will send 10 elders. Be vigilant. Grand Elder Yao Yuan waved his hand. This is urgent. When Celestial Terminus Lord comes back, you will be rewarded handsomely. Celestial Terminus Lord went out? Isn't the Celestial Terminus Star Lord still in seclusion? No, actually, the Celestial Terminus Lord went out to pick a top-grade heavenly herb. Great Elder Yao Yuan said in a low voice. You don't need to know the details. You just need to kill these invaders or capture them alive and interrogate them. Yes, Grand Elder Yao Yuan. They all headed towards the Thunder Shadow Palace to capture them, each of them aggressively charging towards the Thunder Shadow Palace. Very soon, they arrived at the Thunder Shadow Palace. After circling around, they realized that there was no one there at all. They only saw a group of Star Apostles who did not know anything. After searching for a while, he didn't find anything. Damn it, they ran away. I knew it. They must have known that we would continue to send people over, so they retreated. What a waste of time. Arranging for the Hall Master to continue managing this place. How troublesome. None of them checked the array or anything like that. Instead, they immediately turned around and left. Since they couldn't find Yi Tianyan and the others, they naturally wouldn't stay here any longer. There was no point in staying here. Yi Tianyan didn't know what they were doing, but he could guess that they didn't think he was from the lower realm. This way, the primal chaos realm would not be discovered. Unless it was the turn of the next Hall Master. Only then would they be able to investigate all the way here. Of course, this was something to be proud of. There were so many world-class spirit arrays here, and these Hall Masters could not be bothered to check them one by one. After all, there were no problems, so what was the point of checking? Arrangements would be made accordingly, and they wouldn't check anything. There had been no problems all along, so naturally, they wouldn't send people to check. At the same time, when Yi Tianyan found out the location of the mine, he quickly flew over. The location of the mine was a relatively remote type. It could be said that almost every major force had a similar mine. This wasn't surprising. In the lower realm, he had also seen many mines. These mines would either be dug by their own people, or by slaves. Here, the slaves were digging, and they were the very ruthless kind. Groups of slaves were densely packed in this huge mine, constantly digging. At the same time, The sound of cursing and cursing kept ringing in his ears, as well as screams of pain. He looked over casually, and he could see the supervisor here viciously pulling out a whip, lashing people in 2 or a few pieces. The head didn't explode with a whip, but if the soul in the head was destroyed, everything would be over. These supervisors were cold-blooded, but they still continued to work for him. Therefore, he could beat them half to death, but he wouldn't completely kill them. As for those who wanted to commit suicide, there was no chance at all. Their slave imprints had already been given a strict order, and that was they absolutely couldn't commit suicide. This meant that even if they wanted to commit suicide, they couldn't do it. The slave imprints were the most ruthless, and only a small number of rules could act on their own. Therefore, it was almost impossible to find any loopholes, unless one had the ability to erase the slave imprint. This required an extremely strong soul to be able to forcibly erase it. Generally, there would not be more than 1 in 100 million people who could do this. It was because the imprints were so strong that they could be at ease. Many star apostles from the lower realm have been reduced to minors. One by one, they used to be all-powerful beings, but now they came up to mine. One could imagine how depressed they were. At a glance, there were at least hundreds of thousands of star apostles, but now they were all densely packed together, and everyone was digging with all their might. As for rest time, they had to dig out 2 pieces of ore before they were allowed to rest for a period of time. There was basically no recovery, and they completely relied on meditation to recover. When one broke through to become a star apostle, they basically didn't need to eat anything. They only needed to rely on the energy of the universe to recover. The energy here was still relatively rich, so they could recover a lot by meditating for a while. Therefore, they basically didn't need to pay anything to get a large number of laborers in the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. They didn't need any food or elixirs at all. I wonder if there are any from our chaotic realm? Tianyan glanced at them, but he naturally couldn't see anything. There were too many of them, and he didn't know what the star apostles from the chaotic realm looked like. There were so many star apostles in the chaotic realm, but he didn't know where they were assigned to. Move out. Tianyan immediately targeted all the supervisors. There weren't many supervisors, only a few dozen of them. Their cultivation levels weren't high, and the highest was only at the late Star Master level. Most of them were at the early or middle Star Master level. There were a few dozen star apostles in charge of hundreds of thousands of people. Logically speaking, a spit from each of them would be enough to drown someone. However, they had slave imprints, so they couldn't resist at all, let alone attack their masters. Chapter 1877. That was how Tianyan wanted all the star apostles to see him and know that he had saved them. Only in this way could his words carry weight. What's going on? When the supervisors saw Tianyan flying over, they were stunned for a moment. Why did an expert suddenly appear? Was he sent by the higher-ups? Sir, what brings you here? One of the supervisors came over with a smile and tried to please Tianyan. However, what greeted him was a void punch that smashed him into meat paste. One punch killed him directly. For Tianyan, the cultivation of a Star Master was as easy as killing a chicken or a dog. It's an enemy. The supervisors shouted and asked for backup. At the same time, they started to run into the mine to avoid being attacked. There were no special arrangements in the mine, which meant that there was no defense. Once an enemy came, it would fall immediately. The main thing was that this mine was not a key area. There were many ores, but they were very difficult to mine. Robbers would not be so stupid as to rob the mine, right? This was the interior of the Empyrean Terminus ancestor land. Invading the mine would be equivalent to becoming an enemy of the Empyrean Terminus ancestor land. Therefore, they did not bother to set up any big formations. Everything was open to the public, which allowed Tianyan to come in easily. No one stopped him at all. There were only some guards outside, who prevented some unknown cultivators from coming in. When he came in, he killed all of them. Everything was done quietly. Die. Tianyan witnessed the cruelty of these supervisors, and naturally, he won't hold back. He quickly swung his palm from the void and killed all the supervisors who were trying to escape. In the blink of an eye, Dozens of supervisors were all killed, which made the Star Apostles dumbfounded. The supervisor who had been arrogant to them was killed in the next moment. So powerful. What kind of power is this? They all looked at Tianyan in shock. They all know the power of the supervisor, but they didn't expect that the supervisor couldn't even withstand a single move from Tianyan. So powerful. Deng Feng clenched his fists tightly. As he watched Tianyan descend, his heart skipped a beat. This sort of absolute power was exactly what he wanted. When Tianyan descended, he glanced around and said solemnly, "This place is under my control. You can leave now." His voice spread throughout the entire mine, indicating that they could escape. All the supervisors were dead, so they could move freely. However, none of the miners were willing to escape. Instead, they stood where they were. Not to mention running away, some of them even continued to mine, completely ignoring him. "Sir." One of the Star Apostles stood up and sighed. "It seems like you have saved us, but it is meaningless. Our slave imprints are still there. Even if we manage to escape, isn't it the same? Unless you help us remove the slave imprint, we won't be able to escape." This was a very real problem. It wasn't that they didn't want to escape, but that they couldn't. As long as the slave mark was still there, even if they hid in the most remote area, it would be meaningless. In this mine, they had no less than 10 ways to sneak away. With so many people here and so few supervisors, sometimes they could take advantage of the supervisor's negligence to escape, but it was meaningless. In the end, they were all caught, and the more serious ones were sentenced to death. Over time, they had become numb to it and didn't want to escape at all. Unless the slave imprint disappeared, they wouldn't be considered free. "It seems like you have misunderstood something." Tianyan glanced at them and said indifferently, "I can't remove your slave imprints, but those who can order you must have the corresponding authority. In other words, if you go to some cities, ordinary cultivators won't be able to order you. Even in the entire city, there aren't many who can order you." "You mean to say that you want us to go to those cities and take revenge?" They were all stunned. Wasn't this equivalent to using them as weapons? Revenge was revenge, but in the end they would be killed. Some of them didn't want to die, and they really wanted to continue mining. They wanted freedom. After all, no matter what, this was a glimmer of hope. Naturally, they didn't want to give up. This seemed to be the best for them, but the result would be the worst. "You can say that, but I'm not asking you to kill the civilians, but to completely annihilate the guards of those cities and let those cities fall. Ordinary city guards and captains can't order you around. Unless they are at the level of the city lord, or have special orders, they can't order you around." Tianyan looked at them and said in a deep voice, "The reason why I want you to do this is very simple. It's to create chaos. The more chaotic it is, the better. It's best to attract all the elders and higher-ups here." "Attract them here for what? Don't tell me you want to kill them all?" One of the Star Apostles stood out and shook his head. He felt that Tianyan was very childish and laughable. He wanted to single-handedly fight all of them? "That's right, just like that. Kill all of them," Tianyan answered simply. This answer stunned everyone present. They first fell into a state of silence, but soon after, some people shook their heads and went back to work. They didn't say anything about Tianyan. It was very impressive for him to have such an idea, but it was very unrealistic. "Sir, it seems that you haven't woken up yet, have you? This is the territory of the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land. You can't just save us with a slap on the head. We know that you have good intentions, but you are simply pushing us into a fire pit." One of the Star Apostles stood out and said, "If you can't do it, it will be the day of our deaths. You may want to die, but I don't. We still have a lot of things to do. We need to regain our freedom and control our homeland." They all nodded. It wasn't that they were afraid of death, but that they had their own things to do. They didn't want their people to be like them, trapped in this vicious circle. They all wanted to save their homeland. "I've had enough. I'm willing to join in." "I'm also willing to join in." "Yes. How long have I been working here? They don't even treat us as human beings. No matter what, before I die, I will eradicate some of them. Some people didn't choose to join in, but others did. This group of people had been driven crazy. They really couldn't stand it anymore. They would rather die than stay here. At this moment, there were 3 groups of people here. The first group had hope and wanted to defend this place to the death to accumulate military merits. The second group felt that there was no hope and wanted to go kill the guards. The last group was a fence-sitter who didn't know how to choose. This situation didn't exceed Yi Tianyun's expectation. It could even be said that it was within his expectations. Then, Yi Tianyun raised his hand and a crystal projected a scene. Haha, those fools are really ridiculous. Do they really think that they will be free after accumulating enough military exploits? Don't they know that they will be executed? They have trashy talent and a trashy identity, but they still want to leave this place alive? They have accumulated so much resentment. If we give them freedom, they will only bring trouble to us. Yes, but they keep thinking that they will be free. They are really a group of fools. They are still working so hard for us. It's really funny. Every time I see their faces full of hope, it's so funny. The scene was of a discussion between several supervisors in a room. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.